Hello, everyone, and welcome to a very festive episode of Reap the Spoils. I'm Mark Sullivan.
I'm Delilah Lugo.
And I'm Jason Kwasnicki.
And we're not talking about a game today, but probably many games, because at the time of this recording, last night was Geoff Keighley's Comedy Power Hour. And we want to talk about it.
This is probably the best year for the Muppets, man. They were
Yeah.
fucking rocking it.
I have a lot.
Self-deprecating.
I have a lot to say about that. Because, yeah, I have a lot to say about that. But first, before we get to that, before we get to the Game Awards and the things we liked and didn't like about it, I'm sure, we need to follow up from last month's episode, where we had one write-in question that we needed to give a little more time to think about. So, let me reread that question, if you guys will indulge me. We got this question, or this write-in from Roymu7 on YouTube. Okay, this is a quick game we play around the dinner table sometimes. Questions are usually related to travel, but thought it would be fun to superimpose video games over the top. The answers are always really interesting. The game is, answer the following questions as best you can, and your reasons for doing so. If you had to choose one, and only one game, to play for one day, what would it be? The same question for a week, and then a month, and then a year. Units of time. Well, I'll just leave this last part out. That's the question. And we did ask for clarification on this question because we were wondering. I think all of us being in our 30s were like, well, does our real life still like apply to this? Are we still busy working individuals? Is there do we have to consider our lives around this? And I'm trying to find the clarification for this. There it is. Roymu7, thanks again for writing in, and here's the clarification that they provided. Thanks for the response to my game, guys. Sorry to have introduced it so late. It's okay, no problem. In response to Delilah's request for clarification, Mark's assumption is mostly correct. I'd say your respective day-to-day lives remain pretty much the same. We have the same social circles, job, schedule, no need to worry about financial security. God, I wish that were... I wish that were my reality.
I wish that was the game, yeah.
Man, we have a whole other conversation. The game choices should stem as much as reasonably possible from personal preference based on your circumstances. As such, I think one further stipulation is that none of you can stream during the respective time periods, so as not to let it influence your decision making. I guess that's to stipulate, especially for Delilah, you can't. Your job can't be streaming to thus stream this games because that's increase your amount of time playing it. So the question assumes that we have a full-time job and a regular life schedule. Mm-hmm. So that all being said, who wants to go first? We'll go time frame by time frame. So we'll start with, what game would you guys play for a day?
You want me to go first?
Go for it if you have a canned answer.
Yeah. So one day would be easily Snake Eater, Metal Gear Solid 3.
Wow.
When I was a kid. When I was a kid on Fridays, if I had, on a rare occasion, I had nothing going on with my friends or anything else, just go in the basement, play it from start to finish, all the way through, as late as possible. And I did that multiple times. I played Metal Gear Solid 3, Snake Eater so many times all the way through.
But could you do that today with a 9-to-5 job?
On a Friday night?
Without skipping cutscenes?
Yeah, well, that's technically within one day.
I mean, I feel like
after work going, it's within 24 hours. It didn't say one day within the limits of one.
So you're saying that you're going to play this game from 5 p.m. through to the next morning.
Whenever I finish, yeah. That's what I used to do all the time. And I was actually somewhat split because I used to do the same thing with, Sons of Liberty, with Resident Evil 4, all the single player games that you could finish in approximately that time period. But I ended up on Metal Gear Solid 3 Snake Eater just because the story and cinematically the way the game's made, it's almost made to be played in one go through like that because of that quality. But yeah.
Okay, I like it. Delilah, what's your one day game?
So, I mean, I thought about a game that I can beat in one sitting if I'm working, and then I thought about a game that if I had like a full day to dedicate to that I would play because again, a lot of things come to mind. So, if I had a short session, a few hours after work, I would play Inside, which is an amazing short game that I really, really love. It's one of my favorite games ever.
That's a good choice.
And then if it was like I had like hours in a day to dedicate, I'd probably play Shadow of the Colossus again, just because that
that's
game
another
like
good one.
really, thank you. It really puts me in like a meditative kind of state while also being tense at the same time. And I just feel like with that game, it's just like I don't have to think about a story. I just have to feel like a vibe, and it's really nice. So that would be my choice for a day.
That's another one of the list of games as a kid that I would just play through in one night like that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Hey, that actually brings to mind. Maybe we should do an episode on Inside one day. That would be an interesting one.
Mm-hmm.
Jason, did you ever play that?
I don't believe so.
Oh, okay. It would be an interesting one to kind of talk through. Just given like the type of game it is, I guess.
Yeah.
I think I actually just replayed this on a whim, but I think my one day game would probably be Portal.
Nice.
Portal's like it's amazing how I just replayed it. I actually played it like a year or two ago. Again, just on a whim. I happened to pick up a copy of the Orange Box for PS3 and was like, "Oh, let's see how the PS3 version of the Orange Box ran." And I was like, "Oh, let's load up Portal." It's been several years, and just the first few chambers was enough for me to just, okay, I'm just going to do the rest of this now cuz it's going to take me 2 hours. And then loaded it up on. I got the Switch port a while ago and started to try and get my wife to play through it, and just watching her made me want to play it again myself. So I did, and yeah, it's a one day game. It's one of the best games ever made, one of the best puzzle games ever made, and I feel like I could always just jump into it and replay it and not have issues with that. So
Yeah, nice pick.
Thanks. All right, Jason, for 1 week, what would be your pick?
This one was a little tougher. You know what? Come back to me because I'm still bouncing back between two.
Okay. Delilah, you got your 1 week game locked and loaded, or?
Sort of. So the thing is for me, like when I think about working and completing something in a week, it gets a little muddled. Because I feel like what I would play in a week and a month kind of might mix a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
But if I had to think of a game that I could probably complete in a week that I wouldn't mind playing or playing again would be Bloodborne. I remember platinuming that game in a week. I think it was a week, but I also was younger and I had more time after work to dedicate because I still live with my mom. So I was able to not cook dinner for myself and not have to worry about chores, which is not a reality for me now. But if I think of a game that I remember beating in a week that I just soaked in, 100% would be Bloodborne.
Okay. That's a good one. Hey, Jason, you got yours ready, or you want me to go?
Yeah, this might be a cop out.
Okay.
Just because I'm thinking of things I could finish, but this isn't really. I mean, it is a game you can finish, but I think it would be Civ. It would be a round of Civ. I can't decide if it would be 4, 5, or 6. Maybe
Okay.
5 complete. You know what? No, I'll go with the 6. Obviously, 7 is yet to come out. 6, just because it's the latest one. The point is, I would play a round of Civilization. It's technically not a game that you can like finish, beat, whatever, but just because of the variety and for a week you don't know what will happen, you can hop in and out.
Well, so I've never really played Civ. So would a round of Civ take a whole week to play, or you're just saying
Well, if
you
you're
play
playing
it
in
for a week?
if you're playing in bits, you could theoretically like I could sit down and play a game of Civ and go for like 7, 8 hours. Just
Okay.
because it's turn based, you're going around. I think it's a strategy game. It's randomized. It depends how big you make the game, how many other civs you're playing against. Plus, depending on which. That's why I was like, I couldn't decide which civ. Some people prefer 4 still. So, 5 wasn't as popular when it first came out. A lot of hardcore Civ people preferred 4 still. But after all the expansions, I think 5 kind of earned its place. And then 6 is pretty good too. I just went with 6 because it's the latest. The general idea is I would start up a game of Civ and just play it when I could throughout the week.
That's an interesting one. You know, I feel like I had a choice for a week, and now I'm changing it last second. I'm actually gonna go with Uncharted 4. Uncharted 4 we haven't covered on this show yet. And hope maybe one day we will. But I feel like Uncharted 4 is one of those games where anytime I think about it or see a little bit of gameplay of it, I want to replay it. And it's it's the longest Uncharted game. I feel like you could skip through the other Uncharteds in like a day, maybe a few days, but Uncharted 4 I think would be a good one to take my time for an entire week and play through across that week and have just a blast with it. So that's what I'm gonna go with for a week. I really love Uncharted 4.
Yeah,
Man,
it's such
actually
a good game.
thinking about it now, I kind of want to replay it. So
speaking of Uncharted, because I was also thinking in this, do like collections count, like the Master Chief Collection? Because I might have said the Master Chief Collection for a week, because both all the campaigns plus the multiplayer.
Hey, I would say the rules aren't too strict that it has to be like one game necessarily. If you want to do like a trilogy or quadrilogy, like a collection, like the Master Chief Collection or something like that, you know, I think that's fair game.
Yeah, that'd be
especially like if you think about like something like Mass Effect where it's one continuous story. I feel like, you know, that's a good one to like kind of make the excuse of like combining 3 games.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. The reason I brought it up was just because you said Uncharted, and I was going to say the Uncharted collection is in 3 games. But could you do that in a week? I guess you could if you.
Oh yeah, those 3 games probably for sure. All right. Who wants to go for a month?
I'll take it away. Witcher 3, just because to this day I still haven't finished it.
Okay.
I've started replaying it a multitude of times. It's like Red Dead, where it's so big, I always start it and then get so lost, but then eventually trail off because of another game or life or whatever. I still want to finish it. I mean, I know the story of the books, and I do have a general idea of what happens in games. I just, especially now, we'll get to it later. It's more relevant. But yeah, I still haven't finished it, and I would rather finish The Witcher 3 than Red Dead 2, especially because I know what happens in Red Dead 2, and obviously it's a prequel.
Yeah.
That's so funny because I was thinking based off of a specific announcement that I want to go back to The Witcher 3 now and replay it because I haven't played it since it released in 2015 and I never got to play the DLC Blood and Wine, which I hear is one of the best DLCs. And from what I saw of it, looks like it.
There were 2 big DLCs for that, weren't there?
Yes, there was another one. I forget what it's called, but I hear it's not like as good as Blood and Wine, but still very good. And I think they may have both been free at the time. I don't remember. But I was just like, I think I got like caught up in another game. I can't remember what game.
I don't think they were free, but I do remember them being like extremely inexpensive. Like for the amount of content you were getting, that was kind of like the conversation around the release of those DLCs was like, how can like Bethesda put out whatever DLC they were putting out? Like I guess that would have been like Fallout 4 DLC, where it's like $10-$20 and gives like minimal amounts of content, and then CD Projekt Red is putting out like, I think they were like $20 each, and they were like full ass games. Yes. In and of their own right, in terms of the amount of content they added.
The first one was smaller. I believe it was only like $10 or $15, and then Blood and Wine was like $20.
Hearts of Stone was that other one.
Yeah.
I just remember the frog thing on it. Yeah. I mean, obviously now it's all completed, so you can get the full edition. But
yeah, right.
Yeah. So it'd be nice to do that, but that's only really based off last night's awards that I said that. honestly, if there's a game that people recommend and I'm like, I don't think this is my kind of game, but then everyone is like, no, like I know you might not think that, but I feel like if you get into it, it will be. And it's a game that you really have to like sink a lot of time into.
Yeah.
And I really don't know if it's going to be my kind of game, but it would be kind of nice to see that if I had a month available to do it, which would be Stardew Valley, which I know sounds crazy.
Aww.
But like all my friends say such good things about the game, and that's just really cozy, and I'm like, I'm not really like a cozy gamer, like I like the hardcore stuff, but sometimes it's kind of nice to play those kinds of games. So I think I would finally give that a whirl just to kind of get out of my comfort zone. Get out of my comfort zone with something cozy. That's so weird to say, right?
That's a cool choice though, because it's something that you haven't really played, but you're thinking like kind of like the inverse of like, I think a month would be a good amount of time to give this a shot. I like that. I like that a lot.
Yeah, thank you.
My month game was originally going to be my week game, and the more I thought about it, I was thinking like, well, for judging this based on what my youth was like, I can't just dedicate a single week to this game. The original release of Resident Evil 4, or I guess PS2 release of Resident Evil 4.
Yeah, the full one with Ada Wong and all that.
Yeah, with all the new content when it got ported to PS2. That's the version.
The Chicago typewriter and the mafia outfit.
The Chicago typewriter was in the GameCube version. I think the thing that they added to the PS2 version was the that Plagas laser gun that you get if you beat professional. Yeah.
Yes, you're right.
But point being is, growing up with that game, one playthrough was never enough. Like, you finish one and you go right on to the other, and you just keep accumulating pesetas, and you keep upgrading your weapons, keep buying those the million peseta weapons, the infinite rocket launcher and the Chicago typewriter, and you just plow through playthrough after playthrough after playthrough. I think I could waste an entire month doing that again and not get tired of it.
You'd be like a speedrunner.
Oh God, I have to learn all the speedrunning strats. That could be fun, maybe for a run, but yeah, I was thinking that would be my week game, and I'm like, no, one playthrough of original Resident Evil 4, probably not enough. I would probably, thinking back to how much I played that game as a kid, a month would be a lot of fun to just have with that and nothing else.
Nice.
All right, the big one, 1 year. This is a tough one.
Start with me.
Yeah, sure. Whatever works.
Fallout New Vegas complete edition with all the DLCs.
Okay.
Because I would love to go back and do a bunch of runs with all the DLCs. I think with all the hundreds of hours I put into that game already, I don't think I have done all the DLC storylines, and I would love to just go back through it again. And try there are still types of builds I haven't done. It's just such a fucking phenomenal game. Even though I've already played it so fucking extensively, I could fuck with a year of that game.
Wait, I don't think that's what that game is called, right? Isn't it called Fallout 3 2 Part 2? I thought that's what it was called. I'm making a Game Awards joke. We'll get there.
Yeah. Yeah, I think I know what you're getting at, but
yeah. Delilah.
Oh,
a year.
A year. So I'm gonna like pick 3 answers because
okay.
I'm like I vacillate because they all have different reasons. So I want GTA 6. I will play that game for a year. It has multiplayer. It has single player. You can just F around and like.
Do you mean 5 or?
Sorry, no, I mean 6.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I know the game's not out, so that's why like I don't want to just choose this one because it's like, of course, who doesn't want to play GTA 6 for a year when it comes out? And I'm really like jonesing for that game. But the thing is, like, I've been playing GTA since I was a kid, and so like I always remember like you don't have to just do the missions; you could just run around, like run over people, rob, drug dealers, like have sex with whores and then get your money back. Like, and yes, I used to do that as a kid. I don't know what that means about me, but that's what I did. And that's what they were called in the game. I know they're called sex workers now, but at the time it wasn't. Anyway, so I would.
CJ Carlson don't give a fuck.
No, he didn't. He doesn't. So that's basically what I really want to play for a year. I'm looking if I had a whole year to dedicate to GTA 6, I'd be like the happiest person in the world. But for a game that's already out, I would probably either choose the Dark Souls trilogy because you could kind of get good, try different builds, like go through with a strength build, go through with a a dex build, and I've always stuck to strength. I played a little bit with like Faith and Elden Ring, and so it'd be nice to kind of explore a little bit more builds and actually get good in those games to the point where I could do like a no-hit run or something like that. It's like kind of been a fantasy of mine, but I never had the time or patience to do that. But just to like say, like I would also probably get Final Fantasy 14 and get into that
Yeah.
finally.
Mark is so happy.
Yeah. Yeah. That would be the only MMORPG that I would play. Period.
And that is a year. As somebody who did that, it can be a year investment.
I mean, that's a really good segue into mine because mine was Final Fantasy 14. Just trying to think of a game that has, I mean, 14 has well over a year's worth of content to just plow through, but like if there's a game that I could play for only game I could play for a year and not get tired or bored or not run out of things to do in, yeah, Final Fantasy 14 would be the one that I would have that with and be completely content and happy with it. I mean, did you guys do your PlayStation Wrapped?
Yeah.
Jason, did you do yours?
Are you referring to like the special backgrounds that they offered?
Like the the kind of like yearly roundup thing where you go to the website, you log in with your account, and it tells you like, oh, this is how trophies you earned, this is how much time, these were your top 5 games and how much time you spent on them.
No, I must sound like an idiot now. No, I didn't do that. I've never done that.
I spent Final Fantasy 14 was my number 1 game. I think it was the game I played the most time in for like 7 months out of the year.
Wow.
And I put 643 hours into that game this year.
Yeah, so
that's dedication.
You can't even chalk that up to the expansion coming out. Yeah.
Well, I mean, you can partly because partly, right? Like a lot of that time was spent on like Dawn Trail content exclusively, but yeah, I could very easily spend a year doing nothing but 14 and be happy with it. Of course, I probably will never do that because there's too many games and games that I want to either catch up on or games that are coming out. So
exactly.
We'll never get the chance to do these things, but these are our picks for that game. So
yeah.
Roymu, thank you very much for the question. It was a lot of fun, and I hope that you enjoyed our answers. I hope that this inspires like anyone to maybe play some of these games if you haven't. And some of them we've done episodes on, so go check those out if you play those games. Self plug. All right. That all being done, that all being said, we did have one additional write-in that I did wanna call out. This was from our good friend Jehudi MD, who just let us know. First off, Jason could not agree with you more about the life sim aspects of games. Persona 5 is so intriguing, but the life sim aspect turns me off completely. How are you enjoying that aspect in Metaphor, Jason? Out of curiosity.
Oh, I like it so much more. I like the way they do it in Metaphor so much because it's very different. It's much more accessible, but it also fits, in my opinion, with not that it fits better. The way it fits into the overall game and the systems, I like much better than the school daily back and forth routine. Yeah.
Yeah, and that's something that I'm sure we'll talk about more in the future.
Yeah.
He also said, anyways, a question for the next episode or in the mailbag. Do you ever see yourself laying the controller down and stopping gaming altogether? Any specific industry trend that will make you reconsider gaming as a hobby?
Hell motherfucking no.
I mean, we just talked about what games we would play for a day, a week, a month, and a year. Great. So, probably
Yeah, no. You can always go back A, B. I mean, the only thing I can see stopping me, and I don't think it even will, because hell, my dad played games with me until he got to a point where he just had too much work. But would be something real life, like having kids or whatnot. Um, but yeah, no industry trends because there's always just old games to go back to.
Yeah, that's kind of the thing is like I guess to put this question a different way, are there specific industry trends that will make us reconsider buying and playing modern games? And I think that's more probable of a question deposit that would actually result in a difference in answer. Um
Yeah.
I don't know that I could name one explicitly off the top of my head. Like there's lots of industry trends that are unappealing. I think the one that comes to mind right now off the top of my head that has me most apprehensive about the future is AI. There's a lot of games that that get revealed and you can kind of immediately call out as that was not there was no art director or artist behind this. This is just AI slop, and that's kind of like the thing that I hope doesn't become a bigger trend.
May have
Because
been some of that on display last night at the Game Awards.
I
Oh my
think there was
god.
at least one.
Yep.
Definitely that cat game. Oh yeah.
Yeah, oh my god. But, I guess it's a good thing that there was only one, but it's also kind of sad to say, oh, there was only one AI slop game on the Game Awards. And, apologies to the developer behind that game if it actually isn't AI. Really sorry, but it really did look like it.
Yeah, straight up.
So, but anyway, yeah, Jason, you bring up a good point of like real life things, but like even then, like I talk to my wife all the time about when we start having kids, like I can't wait for them to get to the age where I can show them Spyro the Dragon and Crash Bandicoot, the things that I grew up with.
Yeah.
Eventually Final Fantasy VII.
I mean, I play video games because of not just my dad, but my uncles. My uncles were
Yeah.
teenagers playing Sega Genesis and
Cool.
Super Nintendo. So
Yeah, like there might be times of slowdown, but there's never, for my money, there's never going to be something that tells me to stop playing games outright. Because, like Jason said, at the very least, if industry trends today start going in directions that make it like untenable, then fine, I'll just go back. I'm getting more and more interest in retro gaming, or just older games that I missed out on more and more every day versus like the things that are coming out today.
Yeah, there's a lot of new, games. I guess like microtransactions and games of service and AI that I just don't play them. And rather, like, I actually wouldn't mind if the industry moved in that direction selfishly, not because I want the industry to do it, but because I wouldn't mind just being like, well, F all these games. Let me go back to the games that I want to replay or games that I haven't played. I mean, there's so many games that we can literally have a gaming drought for like 5 years and I'd be fine. And I'd still play games. But I certainly think like taking break from games on a personal level is healthy. Like sometimes I'll want to spend more time like exercising or being outside in the summer than I do playing games. And there used to be a time where summers actually had very limited game releases, so I was able to do that. And so now I kind of have to force myself to make that time versus before when it was just kind of given to me. So, but I would never stop playing games ever unless I got like arthritis and I couldn't.
Yeah, but even now, like publishers and these big companies and stuff are trying to put out like controllers that make it easier for disabled folks or folks that have additional accessibility needs so that they can still experience these things. I don't know how.
By the time you're going to start getting arthritis, they'll have technology to put plugs in your head.
Yeah,
your mind will become the controller.
Yeah.
Let's go. Why not?
I think they actually have that already, but it's not like a mainstream thing. Like I've seen a streamer play like that before. I was like, that's sick.
And I'm sure it's also not FDA approved. Anyway.
No.
Hey, I saw there was not a streamer, a YouTuber who made a joke video criticizing the latest Destiny expansion by having his dog beat it with a Dance Dance Revolution pad. So
Wow.
Okay.
That is funny.
I mean, Realistically, the dog didn't actually do it. He was just making points about and video clips of his dog actually playing the game. It stands for
Oh.
bad. But the fact that his dog actually was like not dying and winning is kind of the point.
Yeah. That's great.
All right. Well, thanks for writing in, Jehudi MD, with that follow up. And hey, once again, if anyone ever wants to ask us a question, write in. You can send us an email at dcellmedia@gmail.com. It'll be in the description of the episode. If you ever want to write into us and let us ask us a question, tell us something that you liked or want to talk about or want us to talk about, go ahead, do it. Eventually, we if we get enough, we will probably do an episode like last month's again. So, but only if you guys write in. So make sure to do it.
Yeah.
All right, are we ready to talk about the Game Awards?
Yeah.
Let's do it.
All right. I mean, why don't we start off with the awards, the winners,
Sure.
the losers. The biggest loser being Jeffrey.
The
Keighley.
biggest loser was us for having to watch it. No.
All right. So I kind of want to start not with the big ones. Kind of want to start from the bottom a little bit. So we can just go through, I guess, some of the genre ones, which only had like lots of single winners. I don't know that we really need to talk about like some of these. Like, I don't think we have an opinion on best fighting game.
No.
I think we all kind of looked at that and were like, it could be Dragon Ball Sparking Zero, but it's probably going to be Tekken 8.
Yeah.
Sure enough, it was Tekken 8.
I don't know. Did any of us even play any of them? I didn't.
No, I didn't. Wanted to.
Yeah, I mean, I'm kind of interested in Tekken 8, more so now after, a certain announcement, but we'll get to that. But like, yeah, I don't. I'm only starting to dip my toes into fighting games lately, so I definitely didn't play any of these ones. So Tekken 8, not surprised. Best sim/strategy, Frostpunk 2.
I know nothing.
Yeah, I mean, I was a little surprised that Unicorn Overlord didn't take it because that game was so lauded at the beginning of the year, but I think that's also the problem, was it came out at the beginning of the year, so Frostpunk 2 was more recent, if I recall, so I'm not surprised that was more top of mind.
Yeah.
I mean, we definitely don't have any opinions on EA Sports FC 25 winning best sports game. This is one that I know. Okay, we're gonna start getting into the contentious ones because this is one that I knew was gonna cause some heated discussion.
Sure.
Jason, how do you feel about Fallout getting best adaptation?
So based on what I actually like, leave aside, and folks, another plug for the rest of us. We did an episode on the Fallout television, so go and watch that to hear our full opinions. Aside from the fact that it was an awful adaptation, I was just surprised because I haven't watched it, but so many people were talking about Arcane. Like, how did it beat Arcane?
I think the problem is Arcane, from what I heard, and I know some people that I know that watched it will probably have differing opinions on this, but overall, from what I've seen, the sentiment on Arcane is that season 2 was weaker than the first season.
By far.
But even still, like, a lot of people, I've heard people praise it, and not even video game people, like just like television and movie people saying it's one of the best products on Netflix. So even if it's just a little bit worse than the first season,
Yeah, I was definitely kind of surprised by that too. I just watched Arcane season 1 like recently. I haven't even started season 2 yet at the time of this recording, at least. But I loved it. I thought season 1 really lived up to the hype and really was incredible. I had very minimal issues with it. My biggest issue is simply that I don't like Imagine Dragons, and
oh god, and the music in season 2 is worse.
Oh, fantastic! You're really selling me. You're really selling me on the show, Delilah.
It's like almost a musical. Like the amount of music that they put in, it's jarring. It doesn't even fit in. I was very turned off by season 2 personally. The animation's still amazing. Like it's a feat. But I just felt like the story was a mess. They introduced a lot of new characters and did nothing with them. And there were some scenes that just really didn't sit well with me. Like a death will happen and then a sex scene, and it just there's a lot of things that I just decision-wise didn't really make sense, and I just found it just kind of whack. I mean, I still have 4 episodes to go, but I've done half of it, and it's hard for me to like continue it. So I'm hoping that it picks up, but compared to season 1, it's really, really bad. So yeah, I agree with I don't think Arcane season 2 should have gotten it.
Okay.
Fair enough. Again, I haven't seen it. So
Yeah.
this category is weird. Not quite as bad as when they invented a new Oscar category just for. I mean, he deserved it, but there was no competition for Andy Serkis as Gollum.
Oh.
I feel like there's just not enough adaptations for this to really be a category yet. I don't know, like real adaptations. Because I looked at some of the nominees. It was like some weird random Tomb Raider cartoon thingy that I never even seen or heard about.
Oh, I have. I hear it's okay, but like, yeah, definitely. It definitely feels like there were 5 adaptations this year, so they all just by default became nominees for this for this category.
I'm not against like acknowledging the adaptations, but like I don't know if it like warrants a full category yet. If there's enough.
It's just like so dependent on the the release schedule of that year. Like are we gonna hit a year where only 3 adaptations or only 2 adaptations of video game related things come out? And well, do we still have the award category if there's so few nominees for it? Like, I have a feeling that maybe eventually the Game Awards might run into that issue.
Maybe at least don't be afraid to cut it down, and it doesn't have to be 5. Like,
yeah,
is that Tomb Raider cartoon really like compete with the Arcane? You know what I'm saying? Like, it's just whatever adaptations came out is just automatically on the list. And
right, that's kind of my point. And it's like,
yeah,
it's like, but you also run into this issue with like any category year after year, where it's like, you think about, I'll think back to like 2018, where like there might be 6 Game of the Year contenders, but let's face it, there's only 2. It's either God of War or it's Red Dead Redemption 2, and nothing else is going to win that category. So it's these things come out, they're worthy of being nominated, I guess, either by default or because they were the best of the crop. But this category really probably only was between Fallout and Arcane. I on my list is the Yakuza adaptation on Amazon. I just haven't had a chance to watch it. Is it bad?
I tried watching the first 10 minutes and I was like, I can't do this.
Oh no.
Yeah, but I mean, I didn't see it through, so who knows?
Yeah.
I just feel like if they're gonna do a thing, like, because the fighting game category also suffers from this some years, and I feel like if they're gonna like put it in and bring it out, they need to add a horror game category, please.
I mean, it did. Yeah, see, that's also tricky because that's talking tonal genre versus game genre.
right?
It's like,
because like a Resident Evil will be very different from like one of those first person games where it's not necessarily survival horror. It's more just the visuals and the experience. Yeah.
And that's why, like, it does help that, like, oh god, what is that one? There's that one like horror focused website that talks like all things horror from movies, TV shows, video games, and stuff, and they have like their own like horror awards or whatever, and they'll it's like you have like dedicated outlets that'll like give the focus to tonal genre, things like that, and I think that makes sense. Not that I wouldn't want to see the Game Awards do something like that, but it would like, it would confuse and kind of conflate things in a lot of people's eyes, I think.
And they're already like just running through fucking most of these awards anyway.
Yeah, well, and I'm sure we'll get to that, because I feel like that's a yearly thing for us to complain about. But yeah, when it comes to best adaptation, the 5 adaptations that came out this year are already by default like thrown in. It's not like last year where I felt like there was a snub. I don't think Twisted Metal should have been nominated, but Tetris absolutely should have been nominated, and it wasn't for some reason. And once again, I'll toot that movie's horn. Like, go watch Tetris if you have Apple TV Plus. That movie was really, really cool. But yeah, I had a feeling, I feel like we had more opinions about just like this nominate or this award in general versus Fallout winning it, but
I'm happy it won. I liked the show. I had fun with it.
I expected it to win, so
yeah, I just wanted Ella Purnell to say something like "okie dokie" before she walked off stage.
Yeah, it was kind of weird that she went up with what's his name, Jonathan Nolan and Todd Howard to accept the award, and I don't think she said anything.
No.
And it's like,
yeah,
she was the star. Let her I feel like let her accept this.
Yeah, I mean, I expected it to win just because she was there, A, and B, I didn't know there was even an Arcane Season 2 until this award ceremony.
Until 21 Pilots started screaming the song into your face, yeah. At least was that 21 Pilots that performed that song? Okay. Christ. I don't like them either.
No.
Anyway. Moving on though, I think we're good to move on from best adaptation. I don't think anyone's surprised that Grand Theft Auto 6 won best or most anticipated.
Yeah.
That was another one where it was like, yeah, people are really looking forward to Death Stranding 2 and Metroid Prime 4 and Monster Hunter Wilds, but no, it's Grand Theft Auto 6.
Yeah.
Like, you
people
can't
are still fucking playing 5 en masse, yeah.
Right.
More people than most new games, yeah.
You could go to literally any video game conference. It could be Nintendo. It could be probably like a conference unrelated to games, and somebody in the chat will say GTA 6.
Yeah. So, Delilah, how did you like Black Myth Wukong?
It's so good.
Are you disappointed that it only won one award despite being nominated for several?
And I have like a general feeling about this that might be a deeper conversation that I don't know if you want to get into right now.
I think I know where you're going.
Yeah. So, I mean, I could kind of briefly say it if you want to like stop it there and resume.
Go for it.
I feel like the jury, they all have the same sort of views. They all have the same opinions. They all have access, and they all are kind of friends and friends with developers, right? And I feel like naturally that creates a specific bias, a bubble, and it skews the votes and what wins pretty significantly. For a game like Hellblade that was not only critically but also communally like not really liked very much, to get 2 awards over Black Myth Wukong, which was both critically and like commercially acclaimed, just shows that like maybe people just like the development team and they have a good relationship. And the fact that Black Myth Wukong, and I guess we'll brush over this real quick, won 100% of the community votes for the Player Choice Award and didn't win other awards, makes me, it just doesn't connect in my head that makes very much sense. And it just proves that we need to diversify the voting jury so that maybe add YouTubers that don't have access to games or don't have a relationship with developers that are equipped to like provide critical commentary to video games, perhaps give them the opportunity to have weight in the voting pool. So that's just not so skewed towards one side. So that's really like my thinking behind it. So the fact that they won one award makes me feel like these are new developers. They don't have a relationship with anyone in the voting pool. Maybe there was some bad sort of press around some conversations that happened with them, and I think that severely impacted them getting any awards.
Okay. Look, even though I have not played either Black Myth Wukong or Astrobot, Astrobot, no biases here. No biases here because I haven't played either game that is in the conversation here. Mm-hmm. I say this every time we talk about the Game Awards. Delilah's just voicing things I've said before about the people deciding these things. However, I don't think it's a problem that's ever going to be solved simply because of the money and different people that need to be brought to these award shows to make them, for Geoff Keighley to even get them to work, A. And B, it's basically going to work out the same way that the Oscars do. Like most of the things that get chosen, to win Oscars, most people haven't even fucking seen.
It's the Academy versus the general populace.
Which did not used to be the case.
Mm-hmm.
Like, back in the day, things got nominated like that were mainstream, like Raiders of the Lost Ark, I'm pretty sure was nominated for something. And look, even more recently, like the most award-winning at the Oscars movie ever. Well, it's two. They're tied. It's Ben-Hur and Lord of the Rings: Return of the King.
Mhm.
So, but yeah, that's just naturally going to happen. I don't think there's really anything you can do about it. Even though I agree with you, like on the general problem.
So,
Yeah.
and a couple things. So I think it's important to note, on top of what you said, Delilah, it is important to note like the things that Black Myth Wukong was nominated for versus what beat it out. And like
Right.
Black Myth Wukong was nominated for, it was nominated for 5 awards, which is uh up on the higher end. The games that got nominated for the most had 7 nominations, and those were Astrobot and Final Fantasy VII Rebirth. So Black Myth Wukong was like nominated for a lot of things. It's just the question of, well, in that practice, in that category, did it do better than the other things? And of course that's subjective. I think it's a little muddled too, like there's a whole FAQ on the Game Awards' website, and going there you can see the list of, I guess, the jury, and I think it's kind of questionable of, is that the jury that submits a ballot for nominations, or is that the jury that thus decides who wins in those categories? And it's a giant list of outlets and some individual people. Like Skill Up is on there, and Skill Up is now a small team on YouTube, right? Because he's got 2 or 3 other people that now also do content for his
Mhm.
channel. So it's like he used to be an individual, now it's like a small team of people. But like you have
Well,
like
technically, it was always with his brother, and then his brother fell up. But yeah, you're right. You're right. I get
yeah,
what you're saying.
yeah,
Yeah,
you get what I'm saying. It's like he was like the face of that channel, and now he's got like at least 2, maybe 3 other people that
yeah.
are
They got
doing
a
some
they got a
reviews for him.
podcast with some other industry
Well,
connected
that's
people.
that's like
Yeah,
a kind of a separate thing that he just kind of posts to his channel. Or I don't know, maybe Lucy James and Jake Baldino um did or assisted with that ballot, because that podcast is so heavily
but
run through his
I
channel.
get
But
what you're saying. He blew up. He
yeah,
got bigger. He hired
well,
people, and he's more
more
industry connected now than he was at
more
the
so my
beginning.
point
Yeah,
more so my point is, you can have like small like YouTube channels like that, but then there's something like IGN, and IGN is a huge outlet that employs, I don't even know how many people IGN employs, but it's definitely like somewhere over 50, if I had to
Mm.
guess. I mean, they haven't been, immune to layoffs, so I have, again, no idea what their employee count is. But it's a big outlet. It's a huge
Mm.
outlet in the industry, and you have no idea who at that outlet is deciding what goes on that ballot.
Yeah.
And the Game Awards isn't really transparent about that. They're transparent about the fact that they have outlets from all over the world, like somewhere over 100 outlets from all these different countries that decide the games that are nominated, but we don't know who at those organizations is doing the deciding, and I also don't know who is actually deciding from that jury what is going to win in each category, and thus awards 90% of the vote toward that game, you know?
Yeah. And I'm sure they all do it differently, each outlet. Like,
Right. They definitely do. Um but yeah, maybe some more transparency. I feel like they used to have like a very transparent jury with like individuals, and it was like a lot of like specific like big figureheads on the development side that were like, Hideo Kojima is part of the jury, and I don't know if Jeff like felt like he had to walk that back a bit because he so heavily features these developers on stage, or because they started, getting nominated for things and winning awards, and people
that's what I'm
started
saying.
calling
It's
into
never going to be
question.
perfect just because of
Yeah.
what's required going to make the show happen in the first
Yeah.
place.
And I think
yeah.
like I do think it's a good idea to only make 10% of the vote of the general population, because that can so easily be like socially engineered that 10% is all we get, right? Um
Yeah.
and that we kind of like Black Myth Wukong won the players the play like technically Black Myth Wukong won 2 awards. It won Best Action Game, which I think it definitely deserved in that category.
Mhm.
Um it was either that or Helldivers 2, and
Yeah.
Helldivers 2 won at the very least Best Multiplayer, which it definitely deserved. So
Mhm.
fine for Black Myth Wukong to get Best Action Game. But it did get Player's Voice, which is 100% community voted, and I was a little surprised by that, because there were 3 free-to-play gotcha games in that category too. 4 of the 5 games that were that were the finalists for Player's Voice came from China.
Mm-hmm.
And there were a lot. I saw this in the Final Fantasy subreddit of all places, because there was this one really like stupid fucking post being like, "Oh, the Game Awards suck as usual because Final Fantasy VII Rebirth wasn't in Player's Voice." And I'm like, that was the general, like, that was the people's choice. Like,
yeah.
The Game Awards had nothing to do with that. And I saw a lot of people speculating, like, oh, was this like a bunch of Chinese and I'm not about to like call into conspiracy theories or anything, but it does make sense to me that 3 free-to-play gacha games were part of that.
As I usually do with these award ceremonies, I switch between different streams, so like Actman, Nazmangold. No, by just looking at the chat, it was Black Myth was the game of the year to most. I don't want to say most, a very large percentage of like dedicated gaming audience. Just from looking at the chats of all these, like I switch between 5 or 6 different streams just to get like, because I like looking at the chats and checking my own opinions on things versus what general people's reactions versus big streamers and such, just to get an idea of what the community response is. Black Myth Wukong was definitely, I think, game of the year popular wise.
But you also want to consider that, like, Black Myth Wukong, I don't think those developers gave people codes, and that might also affect people's opinion. Like, I have just a quick tangent. I had a door decorating Christmas contest today at work. Everyone knows who door it is. My door is the best, and I'm not just saying that because it's me. I put a lot of artistic work in it. But you know what? No one has a relationship with me because I'm a newer employee. I don't really interact with people. I'm just focused on my job. They're going to vote for their friends, you know? Yeah. And that's just how things work.
Right. And it's not just limited to games. This is literally how this is how fucking every industry works. This is how government works. This is how just about every interaction that involves more than 2 people in the world works.
I guess we'll resume this conversation when we get to like the bigger ones.
This is a rabbit hole you can dive.
That's why I figured I was like, I don't know if we want to go there right now.
I definitely kind of do want to like push back on that a little bit, but we'll get there. So yeah, I mean, Black Myth Wukong, like it still got some of its dues. It's not like a situation where I brought it up earlier. One of the 2 games that had the most nominations this year, Final Fantasy VII Rebirth, only won 1 award. And I think
that's how I feel like I knew Black Myth Wukong once it won Best Action or Adventure. Which one? Action.
Action.
Yeah, Best Action. I knew it wasn't going to win Game of the Year. Same with Final Fantasy, the soundtrack, because I feel like those are almost like conciliatory awards for the nominees that are not going to get. Same with Metaphor. I knew it wasn't going to win.
But at the same time, it's the majority of 7 Rebirth soundtrack is the work of Nobuo Uematsu.
I felt like any like Stellar Blade could have beat that Metaphor. I was kind of like, I felt like it shouldn't have even been nominated because of that. Like if I was in charge of nominating on principle.
Well, then again, like I was tickled pink a few years ago when Nier Replicant Remaster won Best Score of Music. And I think like that year might have been like a weaker year for like game soundtracks. But like a lot of work went into just the reorchestration and remixing and rearranging of that soundtrack, and it helps that that's an amazing soundtrack. So that winning game or best score in music that year, I was like, yeah, that makes sense to me. And this year, I think it still makes sense that 7 Rebirth won. I think the remixing of Uematsu's work was really, really overall pretty good. The new original tracks like don't stand out as much, but like we're still solid.
Yeah,
and plus,
that's really where I draw the line. It's almost like the remake. There's a fine line, but when the overwhelming majority of it is repurposed old work, that yes, work. I understand and recognize that work has to go into remastering,
but at least it's like work. It's not work done by entirely without the original composer's consent, right? Like Uematsu even came back to compose the new ballad for this game. Like it's not just like necessarily repackaging old work. It's being done by the original creator to some extent and with their consent. So I don't really see it necessarily as a bad thing, or even a misplaced thing. Personally, I definitely would have gone Metaphor. That was my choice.
Really?
Yeah,
The music in that game I feel like is too blaring sometimes for me
I don't know.
personally.
I really love Metaphor soundtrack. I would have been
Yeah.
totally content. And like then there's the other issue of objectively speaking, and I know you guys are going to say, no, Mark, you're being subject. No, I'm being objective here. The best soundtrack that was nominated there is objectively Silent Hill 2's.
Yeah, I agree. If Silent Hill
know.
2, Final Fantasy 7, or Stellar Blade 1, I would have been happy.
Well,
but like Silent Hill 2 and Final Fantasy 7, they're building off an existing sort of template and making it sound good or better or different.
Well, yeah, that's the only that's really the only reason I would say, because like objectively I would say Final Fantasy 7 Rebirth deserves a win just because of how good that soundtrack is.
It's iconic.
But in terms exactly. It'd be like nominating a Mario remake game for, for the Mario theme. You get my point. My point is just that Stellar Blade and Metaphor are completely new compositions.
No, I get it. And really, my comment about Silent Hill 2, like that extends even really more into the best narrative category.
Yeah.
The Silent Hill 2 soundtrack, and granted, I still haven't played the remake. I don't know what they added. But I'm willing to bet that story, that narrative, is still the same one for the most part that came out in 2001. I don't really understand the logic behind nominating Silent Hill 2 for best narrative in 2024.
So they did add new endings, and they
I heard about that, but I don't know what they are.
Yeah, no, and I won't tell you, but they also added new sequences that added to the narrative. Again, like a lot of the narratives told through the environment, and a lot of the sort of changes that they did in the environment added to the narrative, especially in the labyrinth, and I'll just keep it vague like that. So I do think they did new things narratively, but ultimately, yes, it's the same sort of twist. It's the same sort of psychological, like nightmarish kind of thing, which also, like that dude, what's his name again that does the composition for Silent Hill? I forget his name.
Akira Yamaoka.
He's a legend. Like he makes his music sound like a freaking nightmare. And that's a really hard thing to nail, which is why like I would have been fine if it won this award musically, but narratively I do like agree with it being there, but again, it's not fair because the narrative was already banger, and it's just like building off of it.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think it ever had a chance of winning, but I was just looking at it with a lot of scrutiny. Like, it's a 2001 game being remade. Right. The story has not changed all that much to justify this. Like, and a lot of people were getting up in their britches about, why are some of these games getting nominated, or like especially when it comes to a game that we'll get to. Why is Balatro nominated for Game of the Year and not Stellar Blade? And like, come on, guys. But we'll get to that momentarily.
I mean, haven't played Balatro, can't attest.
Right,
but like, I get the point though, because I have played.
Yeah, we'll get there. So, I mean, best community support, Baldur's Gate 3, the Game of the Year winner from last year. They've been putting out some really good updates for that game.
Yeah, well deserved.
Yeah, so I'm not really surprised about that one. I don't think we care about best VR AR game. I don't think any of us played Batman Arkham Shadow. But yeah, and another game that got nominated for several things. Well, I guess technically it won 2 awards, right? Hellblade 2 won best audio design, which was one of those things that it was probably guaranteed to get because
it's like the whole premise of
like the whole shtick is around that audio, that feeling of schizophrenia, of voices in your head. So audio design going to that, I'm not surprised. I was surprised that Melina Juergens won best performance.
Yeah.
Not to say that I haven't played Hellblade 2. I'm sure her performance was really good because it was really good in the first Hellblade. I played the first Hellblade and her performance really was excellent in that game. So I'm sure she was good. I really thought Brianna White had it in the bag. I thought her performance as Aerith was really, really good. Of all our criticisms of Rebirth, and go listen to our Rebirth episode if you want to hear that, but I thought her performance as Aerith was really, really good.
She made me like, I mean, in just remake, she made me like Aerith more than I did in the original. So
Yeah.
I actually voted for whoever did James
Luke Roberts.
Sunderland. Yeah.
One day.
Also, shout out to Silent Hill 2 for audio design. Incredible. That's all I'll say. That's what I voted for the audio design. But also, I didn't play Hellblade.
Yeah. Did any of you guys play the Prince of Persia: Lost Crown?
No, and I want to.
Yeah, that got nominated for several things. It got innovation and accessibility. I did hear that game was really, really good, and I kind of had a feeling that it might get innovation and accessibility purely because like it was nominated for several things. I feel like they wanted to give it something.
Yeah.
And that seemed like a shoo-in compared to the other things that were nominated in that category. Neva was the winner for Games for Impact. That's definitely a game that I my wife really loves that developer's first game, Grease. So this is on her 2 playlists, on my eventual 2 playlists. So
wait,
nice.
Grease is it like an adaptation of the music? Is it like a
game
for the music?
It's the French.
I'd be all about that.
It's the French word for gray. G-R-I-S.
Yeah, no, I know. I'm fucking with you, but
there's no you don't go running in Greece in this
did they get
beautiful
John
landscape
Travolta
and suddenly find
voice
John
the main protagonist? That'd be awesome. And fucking oh my god, why?
Olivia Newton? No,
Olivia Newton-John. Yes,
is it Olivia Newton-John? Okay.
Yes, it's Olivia Newton-John. Yeah, because I fucking love her even outside of Greece. I love her music. Twist of Fate, man. Twist of Fate. That was on my wedding playlist. Are you kidding me?
Nice.
So yeah, those are like a lot of the single winners, and the last like double winner I guess we can bring up is and by the way, I don't think we have any opinions about esports or the best content creator.
No.
I didn't know any of the content creators that were nominated, so
nor did I.
Me either.
Somehow they have like 1 million plus followers. I don't know how that's true, and I don't know who any of them are, but whatever. Helldivers 2 won best multiplayer, best ongoing. I know, Jason, you haven't played any Helldivers 2, right?
No, I still have not played. Or actually, no, I did play it a bit. The problem is just as it's running solo, like that's not how the game was meant to be played.
Yeah, no, you got to have a squad. But Delilah, I mean, I know you and I both put a good amount of time into it. How are you feeling about best ongoing and best multiplayer?
Best multiplayer, hands down. It's so refreshing to have a multiplayer game that does something completely different than any other game and does it well. And it just killed it. And the first, like, I think 4 to 6 months it was out, besides the beginning, which, like any multiplayer game, will have performance issues and things like connectivity issues and stuff.
And that was mostly because they didn't anticipate the amount of people.
Yeah.
Like, they weren't prepared.
Yeah, and I was pretty pissed about it because I really wanted to play it. But once I finally got in and it was smooth, that game was just... It was actually my #1 game on my PlayStation wrap-up of the time I put into a little bit over Black Myth Wukong. And I just had so much fun playing that game. But as an ongoing game, I think it could do some work. And now there was an announcement related to it, so maybe it will. But I feel like once the game sort of simmered a little bit, it had a lot of issues to the point where it was kind of unplayable. Like some of the arachnids, or not the arachnids, the terminids were like way too aggressive in like a way that made it not fun. And there was like a lot of bugs and things like that. Not literal bugs, like glitches. To the point where I was just like,
bugs and in-game bugs.
Yeah, exactly. And to the point where I just couldn't play it anymore, which was fine because I was kind of ready to move on at that point anyway. And just the fact that I had a solid like 4 to 6 months playing that game and enjoying it, and now there's new content for it, I'm okay with it winning this. But as an ongoing game, I don't really think it was the best.
Yeah, I was surprised that I don't remember which one of these, if any of these, were nominated, but like so many others, like even though Path of Exile 2 is that Path of Exile 1 just got like its best expansion season of content according to people who play a lot, like ever. Like there are so many other games I can think of, especially considering, and again, I'm not intimately, because I don't play it and don't really pay much attention, but my understanding was there was a lot of controversy, a lot of sudden drop-offs in player base because of things that the developer did that I don't even know, but
It was
I was just surprised that Helldivers was even on there, really.
yeah, what you're thinking of probably wasn't even like a developer like mandated thing. Well, it was, but it was forced by Sony. It was PC players, Steam players having to have a PlayStation login,
Oh, right.
Yeah. I
and
guess
they had to walk
and
that back.
also Warframe is dropping something, this 1999 thing that everybody is fucking, and there have been a lot of, content about Warframe and how far it's come. I was just surprised that, it was Helldivers at the end, when there are all these games that have just continued after, like, in some cases, a decade of building, and
Well,
people still love it.
it is kind of a weird like award, because you best ongoing game and best community support, like I feel like those could have a lot, they usually do have a lot of overlap, but I feel like in terms of like Baldur's Gate 3 having best community support, which was deserved, but Baldur's Gate 3's been getting like continuous updates over the past year. So for that to not be the best ongoing game nominations, by the way, were Helldivers 2, Destiny 2 The Final Shape, Diablo 4 Vessel of Hatred, Final Fantasy 14 Dawn Trail, and
Yeah.
Fortnite.
I feel like for best ongoing game, though, you're very clearly talking about a live service game. Like Baldur's Gate, I wouldn't
but like at that
fall in
point,
there.
like just call it best live service game, or best like living game if you want to like extend that out to MMOs, because MMOs like aren't really live service games. But like yeah, like maybe call it something else to make it a little more clear what it is. But yeah, I don't know. I think Helldivers 2 winning is fine. I'm just more so surprised that it's taken this long for us to get that massive update that was announced last night, that's going to add like an I presume an additional faction. Just from the looks of it, it's kind of an interesting take on it, but we'll see. So yeah, but I've also had a lot of fun playing Helldivers 2 and getting more content finally. It's like it's kind of why I feel this game was nominated and won best ongoing game in the first place, is just like that hunger, that thirst for more content to actually come. So
Yeah.
the fact that it's finally coming, I guess, kind of justifies the award a little more.
Sure.
All right. Let's talk about Balatro.
Nothing
Delilah,
about it.
have you played Balatro?
No.
No, you haven't? This is like one of those games that like I have had a million people tell me to play, and I'm like, no, the reason I haven't played it is because I've had a million people telling me to play it. I don't want to get sucked into this game that is supposedly extremely addictive.
Right.
And like, it won. People were kind of anticipating a Balatro sweep, and I get it, but it did win 3 awards. It won Best Independent Game, Best Debut Indie Game, and Best Mobile Game, which in my mind, if and keep in mind, like the Game Awards always has one indie game nominated for Game of the Year. Like there's pretty much always at least one indie nominated. So like you see Balatro is nominated for Game of the Year. Well, you already know that it's definitely gonna win Best Indie Game, Best Debut Indie, and anything else that it's nominated for that isn't in like serious contention by other things. And like you could argue for best indie game and best debut indie, like Animal Well was like a good contender against it, because Animal Well was like a really surprising, like subversive indie game that came out. And no one really expected that caliber of game to come out of Donkey's little hodgepodge game publisher, but he pulled it off. He picked a really good one, and a lot of people loved it. But like again, Balatro was nominated for Game of the Year. It was a shoo-in to win best indie and best debut indie. And it's a game that eventually I'm gonna have to play, because it does look like a lot of fun, and it's supposedly this good. So
Yeah.
it's kind of like Vampire Survivors,
I love
it
that
was
game.
a bit of a sleeper hit at first, but enough word of mouth, enough people picking it up and talking about how addictive it is. It's like, well, shit, can I really avoid it forever? Probably not.
Yeah.
But okay, I mean, yeah, none of us have played Balatro, so not
Yeah.
more to say about
can't
that.
really speak to it.
Yeah. So there's really just 2 other big ones to talk about. Metaphor ReFantazio. That one, where's my list? Sorry.
Best RPG.
That won best role playing game, best art direction, and best narrative. We're all in the middle of playing that game.
Yeah.
So I can't really speak definitively to the narrative, but
yeah,
what I think based on the nominees, probably it was deserved at the point that I'm at in the game.
I definitely think that the story is really, really good in Metaphor, and of the choices, I again, like, objectively speaking, Silent Hill 2 is the best story on this list, but
It's the same
Silent Hill
story,
2 is a 2001 video game. That's a 2001 narrative.
Yeah.
There might, like Delilah said, there might be like additional world building elements, environmental storytelling elements, additional things that add to that story. But at the end of the day,
it's not like an RE4 remake where there are substantial changes,
right?
expansion, yeah, like
Or like unlike Resident Evil 4, like Silent Hill 2's story wasn't written in a week. Like original Resident Evil 4 story was like quickly thrown together, which is why it's so goofy and like feels that way. And then yeah, the remake really fleshed it out into like a really, really coherent and well constructed story. It was really, really impressive what they did there. I'm not saying Silent Hill 2 is not impressive. I haven't played it, but my point being is that that story was written in 2001. But yeah, Metaphor story really, really good. I'm really enjoying it.
I voted for Silent Hill 2 just because at that point I hadn't played Metaphor, but I think still at the point that I am in Metaphor, I would still stick to Silent Hill 2, even though your point is true.
It's objectively the best narrative on that list.
Yeah, exactly. And I'm just like, there's things in Metaphor story that I really like, but ultimately I'm not as like engaged in it as I want to be, and I don't know if it's because where I'm at in the point of the game. Or if it'll get better, but right now I'm just not seeing it, so hopefully I will. But art design wise, I feel like Metaphor is actually ugly until you're in a cutscene.
Damn.
Yeah.
Are you fucking kidding me?
Compared to like the other games on the list, on the nominees, I feel like yeah. Cuz like okay, stylistically, right? That Atlas game's really good, right?
Okay,
like
so
the UI, the
like
menu.
Fidelity. You're talking like fidelity.
No, even art design. Like I just feel like artistically, like the enemies and the architecture and the environments are just better in some of the other games that were nominated. Without even thinking about graphics.
I mean, to be fair, I was kind of torn between this going to Metaphor or Neva, because Nomada Studios is like art direction. Their kind of art style is so striking. It's so beautiful that I felt like that very easily could take this, but Metaphor, I don't know. I don't agree, Delilah. I think Metaphor's art style is fan-fucking-tastic.
It's just anime.
but you bring up like the style of it all. The just opening a pause menu in and like any Atlas game since Persona 5 is just like, it's the coolest fucking thing you'll ever see. And that alone to me is kind of enough for at least the nomination, but I don't know. I like the kind of the style of the world, the anime style like works really well in this game. The color palette especially is like, it fits the vibe really well, and like
I feel like we should probably save this argument going further for our actual discussion of the game. Yeah.
Well,
this is actually an interesting I want deep dive that I kind of want to flesh out more, but
that's a good point. Maybe that'll be a question to posit in a future episode of after we've beaten the game. Do we think it deserved these awards? But Delilah, did you have any additional thoughts that you wanted to give, Delilah? Or
yeah, Delilah, what did you think should win again? Maybe
the other nominees I think was like Neva, Black Myth Wukong, Elden Ring, and
Astrobot.
Yeah, I would have given it to Black Myth Wukong for sure. Just like the character designs, the enemy designs, like the architecture, like literally I felt like I was like in a mythological world. It was crazy. And that wasn't even because of graphics, because the graphics were kind of like eh.
Fair enough. I haven't played Black Myth Wukong, but I've seen a lot of it, just other people playing it. And that's a fair opinion to have, I think. I think in many ways, probably won simply because it was stylized. Whereas Black Myth Wukong still has really great art direction. It really did a great job of bringing these Chinese myths or stories / myths that have been reiterated over and over again, and depicted in all these different visual ways they did a really good job of bringing it together in a cohesive, visual story. So yeah, like fair enough. Like I'm not. If Black Myth Wukong had won, I wouldn't have been too upset about it. I think they both could have won. Both deserved it.
And then the other award that Metaphor won, which was like the genre award that was like in serious contention by a lot of games that came out this year, best role playing game. So Metaphor won that over Dragon's Dogma 2, Elden Ring Shadow of the Erdtree, Final Fantasy VII Rebirth, and Like a Dragon Infinite Wealth. How do you guys kind of feel about that?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, I'm okay with it so far. I mean, I think I voted Elden Ring again because I hadn't even played Metaphor at the point that I voted.
Yeah.
And I still just generally liked, and it's a DLC, so that's a whole other thing.
Yeah, we're gonna get to that. Don't worry.
Yeah, but I honestly had more fun playing Elden Ring as an RPG than I am Metaphor. But it's only because of my personal gaming preferences. I don't typically like these very long, drawn out turn-based RPGs, and so that's just like a personal bias that I have. But I do think that it's better than a lot of the other options, like Dragon Dogma or what was the other one? I forgot what the other one was.
Dragon's Dogma 2, Like a Dragon, Infinite Wealth, and
I didn't play Like a Dragon. Yeah, I
Yeah.
didn't play Like a Dragon. So, but I think I like it more than Final Fantasy VII Rebirth so far. Yeah.
That's how. This is how I know our friendship means so much to you, Delilah, because you just said you don't care for these long drawn out turn-based RPGs, and yet you indulge us all the time on playing them. So
there's like, I could do like one a year, and there's like this weird comfort that it brings me.
One a year.
But like ultimately,
on you. The next 2 episodes are on turn-based RPGs.
Oh god, yeah. I am enjoying it though. It's a nice like multitasking game for me.
Now I just feel bad. I feel like we're
I don't.
Delilah.
No. I'm really enjoying this game. Don't get me wrong. I just wish it was just shorter. That's all. There's a lot of.
You wish you could hit the escape button to skip over the gameplay and get straight to the animated cutscenes.
No, I kind of like the gameplay for a turn-based RPG. I feel like Atlas like really nails it. Like they really modernized that combat system really well. I do think though, generally, like Persona 5 was more my vibe, maybe.
Okay.
But again, I haven't finished, so we'll talk about it more. Yeah.
Things we're definitely gonna talk about in the near future. The last like big winner was my boy Astro Bot. Which I
have not played and cannot speak to at all.
Yeah, I know, man. It's like, Delilah, how are you feeling about? So Astrobot won best family game, best action adventure game, best game direction, and game of the year. How are we feeling about that?
I love Astrobot. Super fun. Like kind of like recaptured the magic that Mario, 64 of those 3D Mario games had. And in some ways it's better because it's more modern. And Mario 64 is like one of my favorite games of all time. Mm. So, and I'm glad that the developers, when they got this Game of the Year award, gave homage to that.
Yeah. And
recognized that. But I just feel like I don't agree.
I love how you're so like scared to say that, like, no.
Because like it's such a good game. It's so polished. Like it does so many things right. But when we're looking at like a full picture, I just don't think it deserves all of those categories. The best family game, hands down. But best game direction, it's like, I don't know. Like game direction is kind of a weird category because it can mean so many things. It's like it's very nebulous, kind of. Right. I still would have gone with probably Black Myth Wukong.
Yeah. If I may, let me pull up the because on the Game Awards' website, when you go to vote for these things, you get their like description of what the category like is meant to represent. So I mean best family game was Astrobot or Super Mario Party Jamboree, Princess Peach Showtime, The Legend of Zelda Echoes of Wisdom, and The Plucky Squire. And
so the Nintendo category.
Well, yeah. Plus, like the Plucky Squire, like that, I was like really excited about that game, and then it came out, and everyone talked. All I heard was that game treats you like a baby.
Mm-hmm.
And like compare that to Astrobot, which like has minimal tutorials. They're all visual tutorials. It's just, you get to an obstacle and you immediately know what to do, how to get past it, and the game doesn't hold your hand on doing so because it just assumes that whether you're 6 or 60, you can figure it out. And
Mm-hmm.
from what I heard about the Plucky Squire, it does not care. It treats you like a baby.
Mm-hmm.
And that was really disappointing to hear. I haven't played it yet because of that reason. But I heard that they updated it to kind of mitigate that issue. So hopefully I'll get to it soon. But point being, though, typically that is like the Nintendo category.
Mm-hmm.
And I heard Echoes of Wisdom was really, really good. But
So
like
good.
Astrobot, again, nominated for Game of the Year. Yeah, it's probably going to Astrobot.
Mm-hmm.
Action adventure was between Astrobot, again, Echoes of Wisdom, Prince of Persia: The Lost Crown, Silent Hill 2, and Star Wars Outlaws. I think for the category of best action adventure game, once again, that's pretty much a shoo-in for Astrobot.
Yeah, but I also like don't just a criticism about the category, like action adventure. I feel like Black Myth Wukong is an action adventure game.
But that's the thing is it's more an action game than like action game is like Devil May Cry, where action adventure game is typically like it places more emphasis on the adventure part of that.
But herein lies the problem. Couldn't you also? And again, I haven't played it. I've just seen a bunch of it. Isn't Astrobot a platformer? Like, do we consider that action adventure now?
I mean, it's an adventure. It is like arguably an adventure game, and you do some action in it. I'm not necessarily defending the category. I think when you start talking about things like genre, like video game genre, you start really splitting hairs, and that's why I kind of think genres are.
And if we're being honest, a lot of these exist as conciliatory awards to Game of the Year nominees because they can't lose if they're nominated in those categories. Otherwise, why are they nominated for Game of the Year?
Yeah,
so
it's like you start when you start trying to put games in like these specific buckets. It's like, well, can you really just limit like a game where the primary mechanic is running and jumping as like a platformer? Well, not necessarily, and it starts really like becoming difficult to throw these things in specific buckets and have certain categories for all these different things when you're trying to, because before you know it, you'll have like 16 buckets versus the 8 that I think we have here for genre.
Yeah, I agree. So wait, is like God of War an action or an action adventure game?
I mean, I'd say old God of War was an action game.
Sure.
New God of War is action
adventure. Yeah, and I do think it's fair breaking it down, focus on adventure versus the focus on the actual moment to moment action. I mean, again, not having played Black Myth or Astrobot, I'm just listening to Delilah and hearing her reflect a lot of discourse I've seen on the internet, which is like, yeah, no.
I know that because like I stay off the internet.
I'd say like when a game places more emphasis on the action, then it's an action game, bar none. And when it places more emphasis on the adventure part of it, even if there is action in it, then that's an action adventure game, and that's kind of like how they kind of define.
I'm just gonna, because Delilah is reflecting so much. It like basically like what I hear is that why didn't Black Myth win? And we already kind of talked.
For action adventure specifically, like Black Myth Wukong is a Chinese God of War game. God of War Ragnarok. Now it might not be as narratively intense, and there might be a lot more like combat than in the new God of War games, but it's still very similar. So it's just
and it's based on like
muddled,
a super important Chinese story, the journey to the West, and all that.
Yeah,
like I fell in love with the characters and everything. Like it wasn't just like, oh, this is combat,
But the other difference is, from what I understand, like Black Myth Wukong's combat is really good.
Yeah,
and therefore emphasis is more placed on that game in terms of why it's lauded.
And again, whereas I think that Astrobot is just in action adventure, so it gets that conciliatory award. It doesn't win Game of the Year, and Black Myth is an action and gets that award as a conciliatory award. They all get a conciliatory award.
More so, I think that when we talk about like when we talk about these specific genre buckets and how to thus lump games into these genre buckets, Astrobot is, at the end of the day, an action adventure game, because action adventure does encompass 3D platformer. It just does. And that's not necessarily defending the genre category, because a lot of categories or genres in general are arbitrary. It's like
Yeah,
a lot of these games can have multiple different mechanics in them. It's like Ratchet and Clank has shooting in it, but you wouldn't call it a shooter. You'd call it a platformer. And it's like it's also like talking about the difference between a hack and slash and a beat 'em up. Well, the difference between a hack and slash and a beat 'em up is a beat 'em up you use your fists, a hack and slash you use swords. You're doing the exact same thing in both of them, but why are they different genres?
Yeah, no. I agree with everything you're saying. I was when I was saying, people saying no, why I was more talking about just the general game of the year. Like,
yeah, no, I
think a lot of people are anticipating their preferred game of the year to like sweep in every award it's nominated for.
Do you agree with? Sorry, go ahead.
No, go ahead, Delilah.
I was gonna say, would you agree with Silent Hill 2 being an action adventure? Because it was nominated, right, for this category?
It's like a situation of like,
it's a very broad umbrella.
What other category would it go under? It's like they want to nominate it for something, and the umbrella that it falls under makes most sense to go under action adventure. So it's like I don't agree with any of these genre definitions necessarily. It's they just all these really do is serve to like limit the possibilities or the definitions of what these games really do, and would I lump Silent Hill 2 under action adventure? I mean, with what the Game Awards presents, I guess, because it's not an action game. It's definitely not a family game, so yeah, it's it kind of is what it is.
True.
But going back to the two, I was gonna say arguably more contentious ones, but maybe not, because we just spent like 10 minutes talking about action adventure category.
Sorry.
No, you're fine. The description for best game direction is awarded for outstanding creative vision and innovation in game direction and design. And
super nebulous still.
Right, it is very nebulous, but I do think I did vote for Astrobot here, and I do think Astrobot, for a 3D platformer, and we get those nowadays. Like, there was a period where we didn't get many of them, and now we're getting more of them. But I do think Astrobot, for a 3D platformer, did have really creative ideas and did have some pretty cool innovation in that type of game. You know what I mean? Making use of like the DualSense features again, like Astro's Playroom did, and just like some of the levels, like every level I played in Astrobot felt different. It felt unique. It felt memorable and superbly designed. So with that description in mind, I do feel like Astrobot was a very good pick for this. The other pick that I would have chosen for it, based on everything I've heard, would have been Balatro, personally. But I don't have firsthand experience with that game to say one way or the other.
Yeah, I don't disagree with the choice. There was a lot of innovation with Astrobot in like how playful it was with the different, like the mouse level. I think about like how cool that was, and
my God,
even though it's like basically like another like 3D Mario type game, 3D platformer type game, the different playful things that they did with it was really cool.
Right, but like it's like another moment, like when Mario Odyssey came out, and that was another game where it's like, yeah, it's a 3D platformer, but it does so much new that we've never really seen before. The whole you could throw your hat at anything and suddenly become that thing, like, and like the secrets that you could find in that game, like it was phenomenal. And this isn't, I don't know that I'd say this is quite on that level, but it is something really special. And like, going on to Game of the Year, I don't disagree with the choice personally. I think it was my choice, and I think it was well deserved.
Yeah.
But it's fine if you don't agree, Delilah. And I
Oh
want to
no,
hear your I guess your pick was Black Myth Wukong, and I think for all the reasons you've outlined, I get it.
yeah, I just think it overall, Black Myth Wukong was just a game that you can tell there was just like a lot of heart and soul put into it,
Passion,
and
yeah.
passion. Like you could tell these people just loved this story and wanted to create a game out of it, and they didn't follow any like trends. They weren't trying to make money. Like all the detail that they put in the lore, the environments, the enemy design, the language, the stories, the characters, it was just like it just felt like so much soul and heart went into that game. Astrobot, I'm not saying there wasn't. You can tell the developers are very passionate about their project and things like that. But as a whole, I just don't think it ticked all the boxes for me. It ticked a lot, like it ticked a lot of boxes for me, but not all of them in the way that Black Myth Wukong did. And I don't even think Black Myth Wukong is a perfect game by any means. And I think it does, like in terms of innovation, I think it does sort of take inspiration from other types of games. But then again, so does Astrobot. It just does it in a way that just feels so like it came from someone's creative vision versus like a copy paste kind of thing.
As they say in virtually every medium, the best artists steal.
Yeah. Yeah.
Don't let AI engines hear you say that. Or I guess it doesn't matter, they're already doing it.
Yeah.
Well, by steal, it's not meant to be a bad thing.
I know,
just,
I know what you're saying. Like everything is iterating on something.
Yeah,
at this point.
iterative is the proper word. Yeah.
I mean, I get it. I could see why you'd say that about Astro, and it's different strokes, right? For me, like Astrobot was the out of the 6 nominees, it is the most fun I've had with a video game this year.
Mm-hmm.
And granted, I haven't played 2 of these, but I don't think Black Myth Wukong will drive with me quite as much as it drives with you, which is just a taste thing.
Yeah.
And Balatro is like, I'll probably have a lot of fun with it. I'll probably get addicted to it for a while. That's why I've held off on playing it. But like, I think that actually could have been a really good choice for design, but Game of the Year, I can't really say because I haven't played it.
Yeah. Haven't played either of these, can't speak to it. All I can say is I was so happy that fucking Rebirth didn't win. That's all I gotta say.
Yeah.
We
can all agree with that.
I didn't think it would, and yeah, I didn't vote for it, obviously. I go listen to our Rebirth episode.
Yeah.
Fuck that game. Go watch our episode.
Well, again, I'll reiterate, I did like Rebirth a lot, but yeah, it wasn't my game of the year. Or I wouldn't
there are plenty of reasons that don't even necessarily have to do with the game itself. And again, folks, you want to go hear my opinions, very strong, passionate opinions about Rebirth and Remake, go watch our videos on both of them.
Yeah. I just want to say real quick about the game of the year, like if Astrobot or Black Myth Wukong or even Elden Ring DLC won, I would have been happy.
Well, that's the next thing I want to talk about. Now that we've talked about like all the winners and everything, I do want to talk about the controversy surrounding the nominations. So prior to the nomination announcement, like literally the days before the nominees were going to be announced, the FAQ on the Game Awards website updated with a thing, a block, a question and an answer saying that if I can find it real quick, actually, rather than just try to paraphrase it, where did it go?
Yeah, it was a lot of controversy.
Here it is. Okay, are DLCs, expansion packs, and remakes/remasters eligible? The Game Awards aims to recognize the best creative and technical work each year, irrespective of the platform irrespective of the format of that content's release. Expansion packs, new game seasons, DLCs, remakes, and remasters are eligible in all categories if the jury deems the new creative and technical work to be worthy of a nomination. Factors such as the newness of the content and its price/value should be taken into consideration. So that updated right before the nominations were announced. Basically, everyone knew what this was about, right? Everyone knew that this was about, okay, that means Elden Ring, Shadow of the Erdtree is actually eligible for anything. And I found that interesting because I saw the article published on Polygon that it's weird that this was announced this late because Polygon had already submitted their ballot and didn't know that that was eligible. So the I think it was Maddie Myers who wrote the article. I could be wrong about that. But the author of the article basically just stated that their ballot was already submitted. They have to imagine the majority of jury ballots were already submitted and nobody knew about this stipulation. So I was actually kind of surprised that Shadow the Erdtree was nominated for uh as many things as it was. I'm trying to find the exact number. It was nominated for 5 awards
and won none.
It won none of them. But it was nominated for 5. How did you guys feel about the fact that it was nominated for anything and the fact that it won nothing?
I'm not surprised that it didn't win anything because it is a DLC and it's just like
it's more Elden Ring, which already swept the awards, yeah.
Right, like we already gave that game its flowers. We want to get. I personally feel like giving other games its shine would make sense. If this was a standalone DLC, I probably would have felt the same way, but at the very least, not having to have owned the original game would have made it more justifiable. And I don't disagree with it being nominated, to be honest with you, because I spent more time and I had more fun with this game than I did some of the other games that were nominated. But I wasn't gonna vote for it because at the end of the day, I want the new games to be recognized, and it was just more Elden Ring.
To be clear, it was nominated for Game of the Year, Best Game Direction, Best Art Direction. Looking for the other two. Best RPG, and Player's Voice. It was a finalist for Player's Voice. Yeah, if I have to play 40 hours of the game that came out 2 years ago before I can even touch this DLC, it should not be nominated for Game of the Year. I'll say the same thing that I've been saying like pretty much since the Game Award, almost since the Game Award started. I've been saying this for a long time, every single year. Why isn't there a Best DLC category?
Yeah.
Like, a lot of really good DLCs come out every year and don't really get their dues. Why isn't there just a category to award the best DLC?
Right. Like,
and the same thing.
Phantom Liberty for Cyberpunk, which, I mean, to be fair, the 2.0 patch was free. You didn't need to get the DLC, but still, it kind of came out right before it and totally rehauled the game. And even Phantom Liberty gives you more endings, I believe.
Phantom Liberty was nominated for
a few categories last year, right?
It was something, yeah. It was so Idris Elba was nominated for
voice actor, yeah.
For best performance, and it was nominated for best narrative.
Yeah, it was phenomenal. Yeah,
Player's Voice. Yeah, so those are the 3 things it was nominated for, and like yeah, I think those ones make sense. It's more so game direction. It's more so Game of the Year.
Right.
It's if you have to play a not insignificant amount of content before you can even touch the thing, then the thing should not be nominated.
It's also just
for Game of the Year.
I agree with that principle. I would add to it, if the DLC won something like Game Direction or Game of the Year, why didn't the base game win it? It kind of opens up that can of worms as well.
Well, I think Elden Ring did win.
No. I'm saying in general.
If it hadn't,
DLCs.
Yeah.
In general, for nominating DLCs for that thing, it's kind of like if Metaphor say had won Game of the Year and was not Best RPG, but didn't win Best RPG, how could it win Game of the Year?
Well, I think you can have a situation where like your game is the best role-playing game of the year, but the game that won Game of the Year might not have been the best role-playing game, but was still the best game of the year.
No. I'm saying if something is nominated for Game of the Year, in addition to being nominated for Best RPG.
Oh, I see what you're saying.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. I mean, yeah. I get it. No, go ahead, Delilah.
No, I was just gonna say I agree with everything you both are saying, and I heard that criticism, and I'm like, I can't argue against it. It's true, like to the fact that you have to own the other game to be able to play that game. It feels a little weird nominating it for such a big category. But I'm not gonna sit here and lie and say that I don't think it was better than most of the games that are new that aren't DLC. You know?
No,
right,
for sure. Yeah.
And I enjoyed Shadow of the Erdtree more than I enjoyed Elden Ring. like I was open about that on our Shadow of the Erdtree episode. I had more fun with that DLC than I did with the game. But at the end of the day, I still had to play through that game before I could even do Shadow of the Erdtree.
Sure.
It's not something that I could just download and immediately play. I have to suffer through how much more other stuff before I can even get to it.
Yeah.
And there's the again, like there should be a DLC category. And at the end of the day, it's also just more Elden Ring.
Yeah.
Like you said, Delilah, it got its dues. It got its dues 2 years ago. Like it hasn't changed all that much since then.
Mm-hmm.
Even though it was a phenomenal game, it was a phenomenal DLC. It was a phenomenal piece of content. It's not that different from what came out 2 years ago and already got awarded.
Right.
Yeah.
So yeah, and for the record, I know I've said this before too, and I'll continue saying this every year until it actually happens. There should also be a best remake/remaster category. 'Cause too many of those come out every year that don't get rewarded or noticed.
Yeah. Although I do think remake and remaster, like, I feel like a remake will always be better than a remaster.
Well, not necessarily.
You don't think so?
I that may be a conversation for another time, but
Mm.
I'd say there's really good examples of both, but I wouldn't necessarily say that every year enough of them come out to justify splitting them into the different categories.
Yeah,
But
yeah.
enough of both of them come out that I think a category every year would probably be justified.
Oh,
Mhm.
remake, remaster category? You could just call it the Naughty Dog category. Oh!
Man, did you just think of that on the spot?
Yeah.
That's really good.
Dude, I love the Muppet Bits. It's one of my favorite parts of these Game Awards shows just because I grew up with Muppets and all the different Muppet movies.
Well, we are done with awards and awards discussion. I think we can move on to the rest of the show if
Yeah.
you guys are ready.
Yeah.
Mhm.
And we can start with the whole Muppets thing. I
They
mean, I
killed
thought,
it this year.
well, okay, here's the thing. It was very funny. It was very entertaining, but it also the whole routine was just Geoff taking all of the very legitimate criticisms of him and of his award show and turning it into a comedy bit. And yeah, it was funny, but it's only because all of it is true and he's just lacking the complete self-awareness that no, Geoff, these things are legitimate criticisms. Like you realize that, right? Like these are criticisms of you and you're just flipping them into self-deprecating jokes. That's really the problem I had with it. It was funny, but at the same time it was a little sad.
Yeah, I think he knows they're real criticisms because
Yeah.
I feel like he genuinely takes feedback serious, and that was most demonstrated by the fact that he let developers actually speak this year versus cutting them off. And that was like a big part of the feedback last year. So I do think he takes the feedback seriously. And I think what better way to show that you're taking feedback serious than to like shit on yourself for, making those mistakes.
I guess that's one way to look at it is like looking at the self-deprecation in in a
Right.
light like that. But to
I
me,
Like I
kind
hear
of took it
you.
for yeah, I kind of took it for what it was, and a lot of those criticisms I think are also things he knows he can't really do a lot about. I didn't think about it that much. I just found them very funny. Of all the show, I mean, this show overall, in my opinion, was the best he's done
well,
Yeah,
for
in
the
a
Game
long
Awards.
time.
Yeah,
in terms of announcements, yeah, but also at
not
the
just
same
announcements. I would say holistically, the show.
well,
Mhm.
what I'm getting to though is like at the end of the day, there's still a ton of ads, maybe just as many if not more than usual. He still speed ran. The reason we started off with the awards and talked about them so much is because we just gave the awards more time than Geoff Keighley did
Yeah,
last night. Like,
but I think that's what I mean when I mean the things he can't really do anything about because he needs the money and the resources to get the show, going. And as much as it sucks, that just might be the reality of it.
I guess, yeah. I mean, you could still take less game like world premieres and game and having celebrities on your stage and stuff. You could take
Mm-hmm.
less of that to have less speed runs of awards and more people actually accepting them on stage. To me, I'd have to look back at previous years. It felt like there were less award acceptances on stage this year than last. I could be wrong about that, but it certainly felt like there were less. And like
I
maybe
think
that's
so. They
huh?
also had they also had, if you noticed, security
Yeah, they
to
did.
to just there was a lot more and the people there was a much stricter guidance. You saw security people come up and guiding people on and off stage. There might be practical reasons for that. I just don't know enough about what goes into putting it all together to really make a
Yeah.
judgment on Geoff for that.
A lot of it is a lot of it is speculative. I will admit, but still, it like and yeah, like the security thing was a given because having so many years of people rushing the stage to spout whatever bullshit they wanted to spout on stage, it's like something's got to be done about that.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so it's not unsurprising, but
I think they could do without the musical performances if they're not game related.
Oh
Like,
my god! Can I just
yes,
real quick? Can I just say I was really getting part of the reason I might be biased is because Snoop Dogg was up there singing
yeah,
"Gin and Juice" and looking at the chats because like I said earlier, I watched these
yeah,
through
yeah, yeah.
streams. Looking at the chats and how many of these fucking kids didn't even know who Snoop Dogg was, much less the song "Gin and Juice." I was just like, "Oh my god, I'm old."
that's
um,
crazy.
yeah, that
Anyway,
happens every
sorry to
year.
interrupt. I just had
No,
to.
no, you're no.
Yeah.
That's a sad anecdote that
Meanwhile, I'm like
we can all
singing along
relate
to this
to.
classic, this hip hop
Yeah.
classic before hip hop went the way of rock and roll, but that's a whole nother podcast. Yeah.
Well, anyway, it's an expected thing. It's an arbitrary thing. There's always a musical performance that is completely unrelated to video games at these things. There's been Weezer and Green Day in the past. I don't know why. It's stupid, and I wish he wouldn't do it. But at the end of the
Yeah,
day, it gets more people tuning into the show. And
yeah.
then the next day he can be like, "Oh my god, we've had more viewers than we've ever had before. Thank you for making the Game Awards such a big hit." And it's like, "Well, yeah, Geoff, you had a performance by Snoop Dogg for no reason, so I am not shocked that more people tuned into your show than last year." Um,
Yeah,
it's stupid, but it's kind of an expected thing, and it's not to defend it. It's just like, yeah, of course,
yeah. I get
this is
why,
the game.
but
Yeah. Um, but yeah, that's kind of what I have to say about, I guess, the show outside of the announcements is I
It's
will
never
just
going to be the
always
perfect dedicated game awards.
yeah.
it's like I was saying about what Delilah was saying earlier about the game of the year and the bubble and all that. It's never going to be perfect just because that is realistically the way it is, and there's not you can't really fix it.
This is the award show that has all the pomp and circumstance and the song and dance and all that stuff, right? It's
Yeah,
the one that
it
everyone
wants to
tunes
be
into for the
recognized. It wants to be recognized like the Oscars, like the various,
but more and
award
more
shows.
like people are I feel like people are looking more at like for legitimate awards for legitimate like accolades. They're looking more at things like the golden joysticks. They're looking more at things like the BAFTAs because those are award shows that take the awards more seriously and don't have all these advertisements and game trailers, which at the end of the day are just advertisements.
mhm.
It's this is the big televised event, and the other award shows are the ones that you got kind of go to be like, okay, these games are really getting recognized for the things that they've done
Mhm.
because they're not as heavily commercialized.
Yeah, that's true.
But
I do think overall the show was much better pacing wise, and although there's still things about it that I think could be improved, I enjoyed it more. I still think it was too long, and I was ready to go to bed
yeah,
at a certain point. But
it
I
felt
don't think I
shorter than
remember.
usual
You
to
think
me.
maybe I don't know. Maybe I was just tired from work, but
Maybe.
I hadn't had this much fun watching a Game Awards since I think they announced Resident Evil 2 remake at the Game Awards. So, and that was a long time
a lot
ago.
of it is also luck of the draw, like what is even available to have announced. And like
Yeah.
Mark, again, to like your point, like most people watching streaming or they're watching for the announcements, they're not watching for the
Oh
awards
yeah, they
necessarily.
are. They absolutely are.
So like again, it goes to that as well.
Yeah. Well, that all being said, I had you guys write down and pull out your top 5 announcements from the show. We're not going to go over every announcement from the show. We'll have our top 5 and maybe some honorable mentions, but what were your guys? Let's go one at a time. Do you guys have yours in order, by the way, or are yours just like arbitrary
I
5?
no particular order.
Okay. Delilah, what about you? Did you have like...
They're not in an order because sometimes it might be based off of how much was shown. Like there's a few announcements that was like, oh, that's really cool, but I don't really know enough to know if I'm like as excited about it as I feel like I could be.
Right.
So I don't think I feel comfortable putting it in order necessarily.
Okay. Well, at the very least, like you have your top 5 and the honorable mentions split up.
Yeah.
All right. Do we want to just talk the honorable mentions real quick?
You want to start with that before the top 5?
Yeah. Let's start. Let's get the honorable mentions out of the way because I feel like we're gonna spend more time on the other things, and might as well just get the ones we don't have a lot. Like we're excited about them, but we don't have as much to say about them. Let's get those out of the way.
Okay. Sure.
So, like, what are all your honorable mentions? How many do you have anyway?
Like 5.
Oh my god. Okay, so you have a top 10 list. Jeez.
Kind of, yeah.
You might even just cover some that are on our top 5. So
yeah.
So it might be 2 birds with 1 stone.
Okay. Honorable mention would be the Outer Worlds 2. I really like the Outer Worlds 1.
That was on my top 5.
Well, we'll talk about that more then when you get to it, Jason.
Yeah.
Okay. The Okami sequel, which
top
is
5. Yeah.
Okay.
Go ahead. Just run through them at this point, I guess.
Yeah. I was excited about the Helldivers update, but I wouldn't put it as a top. Animusha, that was really
top
cool.
5.
Okay, so we know like Jason's top 5. I guess he'll go next.
What's your last honorable mention?
My last honorable mention is where is it? Sorry. Oh, Turok.
Oh yeah,
Origins.
That's a good honorable mention.
I forgot all about that. Actually,
I'm very apprehensive about it, which is why I didn't make my top 5 because it's not a first-person shooter and doesn't look like it's going to be anything like Turok was.
Yeah, that's true.
But it does look interesting, so I agree.
Did you have any honorable mentions, Jason, or
no?
Okay, my 2 are I thought my 2 are I thought Shadow Labyrinth was like the most fucking insane thing I've ever seen in my life. That was that Pac-Man Metroidvania.
Oh yeah.
Super dark looking. That looks really cool, but bonkers. And the other thing is, I've not played Tekken 8, but I kind of really want to now that Clive Rossfield is coming to it.
That was a really cool addition. I feel like video game character crossovers has gotten kind of lame especially with Fortnite being in the mix. But I feel like that one was the first one I was excited about in a while.
Right. It used to be you got jealous if you couldn't play Soul Calibur on the right
Yoda.
console. Yeah.
Yeah. And yeah, it's like continuing the lineage of like Noctis was in Tekken 7, so naturally they got and it's also kind of funny because there was a lot of fan outcry about getting Tifa added to Tekken 8.
Oh, I could see that.
So I'm surprised that
They chose Clive,
added.
yeah.
Or who knows? It also could have been the same reason that there's not a single Final Fantasy character in Astrobot. Maybe Square Enix was asking too much money for one of the main heroines in one of their signature titles right now.
I wouldn't be surprised.
Yeah,
but Clive was more affordable. So, all right, yeah, top 5. Jason, why don't you go first since Delilah like listed out a bottom 5.
I'll just start with Outer Worlds 2. The first one. So this is Obsidian. This is Fallout New Vegas guys, and obviously they go all the way back to KOTOR. They've done Neverwinter Nights. That team. The first game I very much enjoyed, played all the way through. I felt like similar to Fallout New Vegas. I felt like the team didn't have as much resources as they wanted. However, I felt like the end product, I could see the writing was there. So it didn't quite meet as much as the expectations I liked. So basically, the way I'm looking at Outer Worlds 2, is
God,
almost like
I wish there was an Outer Wilds too. Oh my god. Anyway, go ahead.
it's almost like that meme from Django Unchained. You had my curiosity, now you
Now
got
you
my
have my
attention. Like
attention. Yeah.
I'm very hopeful that Outer Worlds 2 is really going to hit it out of the park, in a way that I felt like Outer Worlds 1 was good, not quite great, but I see all of the classic Obsidian stuff I love, especially the writing there.
Did we do an episode on Outer World 1? Outer Worlds 1?
No.
I don't believe so.
No, we have.
Really?
I've never played it.
Okay. I don't know why I thought we did. That's weird. Maybe I had a dream.
What game would we have played that would have been similar? I'm trying to
Or Premonition.
Uh-oh.
No,
God, do I know what's in my future now? Okay. Yeah, I thought the trailer for that was really fun.
Yeah.
The humor at the beginning. That was where that Fallout 3 2 joke came from, for anyone wondering.
No, I know.
Yeah.
But yeah, that could be cool. Delilah, what you got?
My number 1?
Well, within your list, you didn't list yours in order of did you?
No. Did Jason say all of his 5?
No, he just said one.
Oh, okay. So we're doing
one by one. Yeah.
Okay. My number 1 is The Witcher 4. I mean, we knew The Witcher was.
That's on my list as well. Yeah.
That's all right.
Yeah, we knew The Witcher. We knew CD Projekt Red was gonna do this, but seeing it as like a start of the show, and I thought the trailer was really good, and seeing like confirmed. Although if you played The Witcher 3, this is like kind of a spoiler, but like also the trailer's kind of spoiling the game, The Witcher 3, so it's like complicated.
It also departs from the book in major ways. So like even if you've read the books and haven't played the games, like let's just say like I have apprehensions about some lore implications of the trailer. The only problems I have are very nerdy, specific, nitpicky lore things. Well, not in some cases, not really nitpicky, pretty important. That being said, it was a phenomenal trailer, and I'm very excited for it, which is why it was on my top 5 as well.
Yeah, I mean, to see like there's a specific ending that you get, so you kind of know that Ciri is gonna be the main character if you got that ending, but you can also get 2 other endings that are completely unrelated, where it's actually a sadder story for Ciri in some ways. But I just think seeing her all grown up and the way that she used the signs, like I think the sign is called Ignis, the fire one, where like she like added it. Igni, okay, thank you. Where she added it to like the chain. That's not ever something that we did with Geralt in the original Witcher 3, so I thought that was like a really fun way to see her use the combat. I thought her like grown up design looked really, really good. And the graphics, dude, like the cutscenes in that trailer, I was just like, holy shit, this is crazy. And I knew it was, I kind of called it was The Witcher right away once they showed like a half naked woman. I was like, oh, this is The Witcher. Like, no doubt about it. Like the way that they spend like so many hours in mocap cutscenes that I just like immediately recognized how they would design a woman's body.
For me, it was like that barrel like bath. Because I've seen enough images of Geralt taking a bath in one of those things to know, like, okay, I'm pretty sure this is the next Witcher. And sure enough, it sure was.
Right.
Yeah.
So yeah, not on my list actually, but it does look cool. I just haven't engaged with The Witcher, so at some point, that's on my to-do list.
Yeah, really good trailer though.
So okay, cool. I guess the first one I'll go with is Split Fiction.
I had that on my list.
The new Joseph Fares game. My wife and I just replayed It Takes Two because she's been wanting to replay it, and this is like the 3rd or 4th time I played through it. But man, he is putting out games that no one else really is, and he's doing it better than anyone else probably will. And
I mean these games don't interest me at all, but I will say Split Fiction does have a very cool concept. I think the concept is much cooler. The premise, in my opinion, is much cooler than It Takes Two.
And that, I could see that. I could see how like the idea or the the conceit of It Takes Two like might not appeal to you, and this definitely would be more appealing. It's just the idea of these games that you can only play with another person. There's no single player. It's just you just need one other person. The idea that you only have to buy the game once, the other person doesn't have to be in your house to play it with you. Like they just download the free client and can play it with you remotely as long as one person owns it. It's fine. And the amount of mechanics, and they don't even have to be like super deep or complex. It's just the amount of things being thrown at you and the uh just the way that they're designed, that they're coming at you at breakneck speed, but they're still endlessly fun, and you don't get there's no time to get bored because you're just constantly doing like insane wacky shit, and it's just like so much fun. um his next game was always going to be like a big anticipated thing for me, and this is definitely like super cool, and I can't wait for it. So
Yeah, these his games are definitely like the couples games, in my opinion. Like they'll play this on Valentine's Day with each other, have a good time, whatever. But they're just fun. Like it doesn't stay stuck on one mechanic. You're constantly seeing different gameplay mechanics that you may or may not be familiar with being used in really creative ways. So, like you said, there's no time to get bored. And on top of it, you have to play as a team. Like you have to cooperate with each other. There has to be some level of communication, and it's really difficult to like see that in many co-op games. This game, like, it does it in such creative ways, or at least the other games like A Way Out and It Takes Two have done it in really creative ways. And the premise of it, like being like fantasy versus sci-fi, is super cool, super creative. I told Matt, I was like, I gotta be the sci-fi girl, you can be the fantasy girl. um and also the fact that you don't have to buy the game is like a twice is a super uptick. Although I don't know if you can earn trophies both ways, which I hope you can this time around. I don't remember if you could in It Takes Two.
I don't think so. I think only the person that owns it gets the trophies.
Oh, okay,
Yeah.
gotcha.
Well, who knows? That might be different for Split Fiction, but in the past for A Way Out and It Takes Two, I think it was only the person that owned it earned the
Okay.
trophies, and otherwise, you could still play the game. You just don't get trophies on your trophy list.
Right. And yeah, everything looks super colorful and vibrant and fun. I like that they had like a Metroid kind of gameplay mechanic. I was like, oh, it's totally like the Metroid ball right now.
Like It Takes Two. Oh my god, I love that game so much. But like it there's like a section where it's like a cooperative platformer where you're on separate sides of like something, and you gotta help the other person from the other side of the level along. It's like it'll switch from a puzzle platformer to suddenly there's a section of the game that's like 20 minutes long, 25 minutes long or so, and it's Diablo. Like you're
Yeah.
literally just playing Diablo all of a sudden. It's like, what the fuck? This is so fucking crazy. And it's not complex. It's just like 3 buttons that do different things, and you just got to work through the level with it. But and then in the snap of fingers, it changes again to something completely different.
Yeah.
It's insane. It's insane. And what's even more insane is that he still has more ideas, I would think, that are new and going to be innovative and make up an entirely new game. I just can't wait for this game. It's going to be so much fun.
Yeah, I'm so excited. Also, like, shout out to the way he announces it. I love that he throws a bunch of F-bombs, and at the end, he's like, "Oh, look at my beautiful daughters," and his daughter's like tired of her dad's shit. She's just like, "I'm so tired of hearing this motherfucker."
I said to my wife last night, I really hope that like it never comes out that he's like really toxic to work with or anything, because
Mm,
his public persona is just like he is just such a loving and fun and
charismatic.
passionate, a charismatic, passionate guy. Like I really hope that behind the scenes that still remains true, because he really is just like he's such a treasure to have in this industry.
Yeah,
Right.
absolutely.
So,
And
but
also, just one quick point. One
what's that?
quick point. I do feel like the Overcooked team is trying to make a game like that. And I
Yeah,
don't think it's going to wind up on any of our lists, but it did seem very sort of It Takes Two
it's
kind of
like
style.
it's not on my list, but I am definitely looking. Well, that game is called Stage Fright, and I'm
Yeah.
definitely looking at that. Like, I hope that that's good, but I do I almost feel bad for the devs that got revealed on the same night that Hazelight's next game did, because it's like, if Split Fiction wasn't announced at this show, that definitely would have made my list.
Sure.
And I hope that that's good, because I probably will pick that up for me and my wife to play together. But yeah, Split Fiction is the one. Like,
yeah,
It Takes Two won Game of the Year in 2021, and that deservedly so, in my opinion. And I couldn't be more excited for Split Fiction.
Yeah.
But, enough about that. Jason, what's your next game?
So my next one would be we don't even know what it's called yet. It was just a short teaser from the Ico Shadow of the Colossus Last Guardian guy.
Yeah, that was on my list too.
I was so pumped.
List.
Nice.
Go full circle.
I wish we had gotten more. It looks like he's integrating elements from all those games into this one. At least that's what it looks like. We don't even know what it's fucking called yet. We really don't know anything about it, other than it kind of looked almost like he's keeping it within that same universe, but perhaps much farther in the future, which I hope he does. Like, I mean, I don't want the gameplay to be exactly the same. Obviously, he's never done exactly the same gameplay.
That's the thing, is at least we know that it probably won't be exactly the same as anything he's put out. Because
but it looks like he's incorporating, like you see the climbing, you see like from the Last Guardian.
Yeah,
you also see some like Ico stuff, so it's got that same, and it's also
aesthetic.
got the vibe. Yeah, like you were talking about earlier, Delilah, about Shadow of the Colossus, the vibe, the meditative, almost relaxing mood.
Yeah, absolutely. And I just love that this team, which just a quick thing, didn't Sony let go of this team? Is it Team Ico? Is that what their development team is called? Or
so no, it's the developer behind Shadow and Eco was Team Eco, but it was like kind of colloquially called Team Eco. But Ueda actually left and formed Gen Design on his own, and that is who wound up finishing development on The Last Guardian.
Right, because Last Guardian was in development hell forever.
Yeah.
So it wasn't so much that they let the team, or they closed the team or anything. Ueda left, formed his own team, and they got hired to finish The Last Guardian, and now they're just completely independent.
Got it. Okay.
And yeah, this game is being published by Epic. What kind of just bums me out is the fact that it's been 8 years since The Last Guardian, and we're finally getting a look at their next game, and it doesn't even have a title.
Right.
Well, gee, how long is this game going to be in development before we actually see more of it? Like, that's what gives me pause, and almost why I almost didn't put this on my list. But
anything from Ueda is gonna get me excited enough to put it on the list.
That's the reason I did, is like, I love Ueda's work, so not putting it on my list, it's like, well, no, this got a really big rise out of me, especially because my old roommates, who I've talked about plenty on the show before, we did our own like whole prediction bet for, predicting the winners, and we also did just like announcement prediction bingo, and this was one of my predictions that I did not know would happen, and oh my god, I can't believe it did.
Yeah, that's so exciting. I think I did see very small text at the end of the trailer showing Project Robot. So I don't know if that's what the project's called, but they didn't announce it that way. Geoff said it was an unannounced game, unannounced title. So
yeah,
I just, man, that like gray color palette with the like bright blue sneaking in there. It's just, it's so good. I love it.
Yeah.
And the music too. When the music hit, I was like, this is so good.
All right, well, since we just did a full circle, hey Jason, what's your next one? Let's see if we do another circle.
So what did I say? The Okami sequel, which obviously we didn't get any gameplay, and it's just they just called it Okami sequel. Like, I don't think they even said 2. It just said sequel, if I remember correctly.
Yeah, it was Okami sequel.
But
Delilah, is this on your list too, by the way?
My honorable mention.
It was on the honorable mention.
Oh, that's right.
That's why I'm just bringing it up, just because I already mentioned it. Or Delilah mentioned it, and I was reaffirming, just because, again, and there were a couple of these here. Another PS2 era I remember so fondly. Even just the mention that it's coming back um, gets me really excited. And it's very much a Zelda inspired game if you played or have ever heard of the original. Um, and like a classic Zelda inspired, so you got the ability Japanese water painting, you got the paintbrush where you
Yeah.
paint things in the environment. It's very creative or very unique, I should say. Gameplay and graphic style. Very much looking
Mhm.
forward to seeing a new iteration on that in current gen.
Yeah. The only reason it didn't make my top 5 is because I never played Okami. I watched my brother play it, and I remember just being so like enamored with the art and like just the way Amaterasu walked around. I was just like, "Oh my God, this is so like cool to look at." So I'd like want to play it before I can say, "Oh yeah, I'm gonna play Okami too." Like I feel like I have to actually play the game and not just watch someone play it.
This also made my list, and it's kind of funny you mentioned that, Delilah, because I also haven't played the original Okami. Um, but it's always kind of been on my list of things to get to, and now it just got moved way up the list.
Right.
The way that this was revealed was just like very like you were on the edge of your seat wondering what this was gonna be, and
Yeah.
no one ever thought there would be an
With the
Okami
drum,
sequel.
with the drums, I've because it started with that drum intro, I thought it was going to slow down and then do the beginning of the Elder Scrolls. I thought it legitimately, like even though the guy it didn't look at all like it would be, I thought it was going to be like boom, 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 and then go into like an actual Elder Scrolls 6 reveal.
Well,
Mm,
initially I thought I like just the because it very much for the first 20 seconds of the reveal like didn't really allude to what it necessarily was, but still seemed like very rooted in Japan. So like my initial thought was that this is a even bigger trailer for Ghost of Yotei.
I thought that
Uh,
too.
and I was
Yeah.
kind of thinking like, well, that's kind of a weird thing for Jeff to get like really like
Emotional. He
Emotional.
almost
emotionally
he was about
shaken about it.
yeah, he was about to cry. It looked like
Which
Yeah.
like I've been seeing a lot of vitriol online because there was that rumor that I don't know if you guys like follow the rumors or anything or saw any of the shit that was circulating the day of the Game Awards, but there was a rumor that spread like wildfire that Half-Life 3 was going to be announced.
yeah.
Oh, yeah.
And
I heard a
that
little bit of that. Yeah.
that was compounded by who I've come to find out from a close friend of mine that this one YouTuber or person that leaks supposedly leaks Valve stuff a lot. Um but really is just like one of those leakers that says a lot of shit but doesn't have anything to really back it up. He was pushing that pretty hard, and a lot of Valve followers are like really disappointed that like that didn't happen. I'm like, well, that sucks, but that's what you get for listening to these people that are becoming less and less credible every single day.
Mhm.
But at the end of the day, we got an Okami sequel that no one ever thought we would get.
Yeah.
Right.
Alongside that, Hideki Kamiya is returning to, I guess, lead it, and we now know what happened after he left Platinum. He formed a studio called Clovers, which if anyone knows, the original Okami was developed by Clover Studio, an internal studio at Capcom that got shut down
Hmm.
after Okami was a commercial success or a failure. It
Right.
was a critical success. It was a commercial failure.
Right.
Um, so
But yeah,
yeah,
right now, just one more massive W for Capcom. Capcom is just on fire in
yeah,
Yeah,
recent years.
for sure.
yeah. I agree. I'm very much looking forward to this. So hey, maybe we should do an Okami episode.
Yeah, I'd be down.
Maybe I
That'd
believe
be fun.
they did a remaster, didn't they, or
It's
re-release?
it's right back there.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's an HD remaster for it, so it would be pretty accessible for people to get and play. That which
Just
includes
I'd
reminded
be down. I
me.
haven't played it since PS2 days. Like I said, I can understand why Jeff might be a little emotional about it.
Yeah. That reminded me, whatever happened to that game with the weird girl, the Capcom game? I forget what it's called. It's like the weird
Oh,
girl.
Pragmata.
Pragmata, yeah, is it like gone?
Whatever happened to hey, even worse than that. You guys remember Deep Dive?
Yeah.
Yeah, that was revealed as a supposed launch title for the PS4, and that
Oh my
still is
god.
nowhere to be seen. So,
That's crazy.
uh, good questions all around.
Yeah. Well, good on Capcom though for making games that are gonna be good.
Since at least Jason and I shared that one, Delilah, what do you have next?
I mean, to no surprise, From Software is kind of like, hey, I can't win a game award with a DLC. Well, how about a standalone game? And then they revealed Elden Ring, Night Rain.
I love the idea that like Geoff called up Miyazaki and was like, "Hey, I'm getting a lot of shit for letting Shadow of the Erdtree through as a game of the year. Can you make your next game not a DLC but standalone? Cool, thanks."
Yeah. Um yes. Did this say 2025 by the way? I don't
Yes.
remember. It
Yes.
did?
Yeah. Yeah, just 2025, no window other than the year.
So, while I am very excited about this cuz Elden Ring my favorite game of all time and just really enjoying From Software games overall, I am worried that they're blowing their load, that they're turning into like Assassin's Creed kind of thing, and I don't think they'll ever become that, but I just don't want them to.
To be fair, this is not like a Soulsborne game. This is a multiplayer. This is a very different experience from Elden Ring.
Well, I don't know about that because the gameplay looked a lot like just the same. It looks like just Elden Ring gameplay.
It's weird. You have to like look up. I can't like give a full. Basically, it's like there's like cycles of days, and it's like cooperative, and at the end of each day, a boss appears. I can't really explain exactly how it's supposed to work, but it's almost like a not randomly generated, like a specifically tailored multiplayer experience, cooperative, almost like Monster Hunter kind of, where you loot from that final boss each day. Yeah, it's there were rumors. There were rumors beforehand that they were doing like a Monster Hunter like game from Soft. And it seems like this might be what that was referring to.
That makes a lot of sense because there was some bosses from Dark Souls 3 that I recognize, like the nameless king, I think his name was. The like lightning lion dragon thingy. Yeah. And then the Firekeeper from Dark Souls 3 was in there. So I was just like, oh, this is interesting because it's very much so Elden Ring, but it has like characters and bosses from other games, and it just seemed very multiplayer focused. And my partner, who doesn't play these games, was like, oh, there's multiplayer now. I was like, well, there always kind of was. You can always kind of play with your friends, so it makes sense that they were showing just multiplayer because perhaps that's the focus, which I think is really, really cool. A really, really cool idea. I actually am more excited about it now that you explain that.
Yeah, I didn't even do a good job of explaining because I don't even fully understand it.
Yeah, if it's like a Monster Hunter kind of game where you have to play co-op to like fight these bosses and that's the focus of the game, I think that's awesome.
My main point was that this is not a single player experience.
Right.
It's not meant to be.
Focused more on co-op, which I think is going to be a big turnoff for a lot of people.
Yes, that's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
I think a lot of Elden Ring / FromSoft fans who are looking at this like it's going to like another Elden Ring might be disappointed.
I'll tell you right now, like a friend of mine who she's the person I brought up in our Shadow of the Erdtree episode, who is like a huge From Software fan and a huge like lore junkie for these things. And like she texted me during the show last night, basically being like, would you believe if I told you I was disappointed with the announcement? And I'm like, uh-oh. And it was like, yeah, things that you just said basically is the co-op focus, some of the lore bits. It's like, yeah, I get it, and it's something I'm a little less inclined to play as a result of the co-op thing too. But
right.
I guess if we want to do an episode on it, the three of us could party up. That
I feel like I appreciate From Software going a different direction, right? Because this isn't like you could just play Elden Ring if you want the single player experience. You know what I mean? Like it's not like it's taking away from like the From Software experience, especially if they're churning it out next year. Like we literally just had a DLC where you can play single player, but
But the
I just
counter argument to that is if there is new story, if there is new lore only in this game, and you don't want to play this game, but you love the world of Elden Ring, I could see how that would be like a major disappointment. Because it's not like
maybe.
you can go to Elden Ring proper to get that stuff.
Yeah, I mean, the reality is whether people are turned off by it or not, they're gonna play it anyway, and
Yeah.
they're gonna love it. They might not love it as much as they love the other games, but they're still gonna enjoy it for some reason or another. And then when Batu Video comes out with his like lore review, they're gonna be like, "Oh, that's really really cool." So like, I'm not like trying to be like, I'm not trying to like play devil's advocate on purpose. I just feel like I like new ideas, right?
Yeah,
and so when
for
Elden
sure.
Ring became an open world Dark Souls, a lot of people were like, "Oh, but like the point of it is to be linear and stuff like that." And then it came out open world and it was fantastic. So I just like I like the fact that they're playing with different ideas. And I
And
also like to be
you can even see it in the gameplay, like the using the bird to fly around, the
yeah,
wall
that was
running,
really
all that
cool.
stuff. If it allows them to experiment with new stuff, for sure.
Yeah, and maybe putting it under the Elden Ring name, it made it, maybe a little like contentious for people, but I don't know.
And
I'm fine with it.
I think that might be the big thing, right? Is like if you're gonna do something so different and so out there, like absolutely try new things as a development studio. You absolutely should do that. But doing that under Elden Ring and the gameplay switches things up so much that it's like making Metroid Prime Federation Force. It's like taking an existing IP that people have been waiting for a new entry in for so long and throwing it on a 3-player co-op like shooter thing.
Right.
It's like why would you do that? Why would you do that? Like no one wants that in that franchise. Why would you do that? And that's maybe that's a similar thing for Elden Ring Night Rain. But I also, don't fault you for being excited for it, and I don't fault anyone for being excited for it. At the end of the day, it
Anyone for
still looks
being like criticizing it either. I
yeah.
just feel like doing new things is good. And if we hadn't had an Elden Ring in like 5 years and then they announced this, I would get it a little bit more. But like we just had Elden Ring. Like me
Right.
Exactly.
personally, I'm ready for something new, something
Yeah.
different.
Right. It's not like it's not like Bloodborne.
Oh my
Right.
It's
god,
like,
yeah.
could you imagine if they did the same announcement, but it was Bloodborne Night Rain? So many people would be pissed.
Yeah,
Right. Right.
exactly.
Oh yeah, that's fine, and yeah, that it's all good. Okay, how many? I don't even know how many were because we have some overlap, so I don't know who would be next or what.
You are next.
Okay, I'll go next. And this is another one Jason has on his list, so I guess we'll get this one out of the way. Yeah, Onimusha, Way of the Sword.
Yeah, that's another
Um,
one from the PS2 days, man.
yeah, and again, Onimusha, another Capcom franchise I actually haven't touched, but it looks dope as hell, and I really want to get into
Right.
it. And the fact that there's a new entry coming, let's do it. I want to get into Onimusha, and that game looked really really cool. It was a really cool reveal.
I'm glad to see that Capcom, they've been on fire with Resident Evil lately for the most part. I'm glad to see that branching out and they're just like digging into the I don't want to say well because that's usually a negative connotation, but I mean they're digging deep into IPs they haven't touched in literally decades. I love that.
It's been like mostly like really successful for them. It's like, at this point it might actually be a matter of time until we get that Dino Crisis reboot announcement that everyone's like really itching for. Um but yeah, I mean, the only thing I'll say is don't forget about Devil May Cry, please. It's already been 5 years since 5.
Yeah, didn't they come out with like a remaster or remake of the original Animusha
Yeah,
like a few years back?
it was a yeah, it was a remaster. It came out. Hold on, I'm looking. That came out in late 2018 in Japan, early 2019 in the West.
Yeah, I wanted to
So
play that.
yeah, it's been, you know, they kind of did that. I guess that kind of sold well enough that they were like, oh, people actually do want more from this franchise. Maybe we should do something with it. So,
Nice.
but yeah, Capcom has been really good about that lately, and they've been like among the best developers and publishers today. So looking forward to
Nice.
that. Jason, did you
Yeah.
have anything more to add about that one, or
No,
okay?
basically what you just said. Actually, when it comes to Onimusha, I'm like you. I never actually played it, but I remember I forget if it was Game Inform. I forget which magazine it was. I remember when the first one was coming out, seeing the cover and reading about it in the gaming magazines. The first Onimusha. My understanding is like the originals that had like survival horror elements. Like it was very much described at the time as like samurai Resident Evil with a little bit of Castlevania mixed in. Never played any of them, but I do remember them coming out on the PS2, seeing them on the store shelves in the magazines. So I'm very much looking forward. And if they have remasters, all the better to go back and play something that I never touched and wish I had.
Dead Cell Media coming at you with those PS2 classics in the future.
I mean, that was our childhood. So like, there's that nostalgic element. It's the same thing with the Okami sequel.
Mm-hmm.
It is kind of surprising that only the first Onimusha got the remaster treatment. I wonder if they will.
I think there were 3 of them.
There were, or I think actually 4 of them.
Yes, you're right. You're right.
But yeah, I mean, I would hope that they crank the rest of them out so that people can catch up. Well, it also depends on, who knows, maybe Way of the Sword is like a total reboot and you don't need the rest of them or what, but we'll see. All right, how many we all got left? I know I have one left.
I got one left, I believe.
Delilah, how many do you got
left?
One,
yeah.
Okay, so Delilah, what's your
Intergalactic, the new Naughty Dog game. Look, all right, I'm just glad that they're getting away from The Last of Us and Uncharted finally. I knew it was Naughty Dog pretty much right away just because of the facial animation, the quality of the facial animation and things like that. The music was super cool. The vehicle, the Porsche vehicle looked really, really cool. The details in the ship were awesome. I don't really know what the story's about. I don't know what the characters are going to be about. But I'm just glad they're moving away.
Just some like additional, I don't know if you saw this, but like I think in an interview or an article that came out after, and these inspirations are pretty clear. They're like the 2, I guess, big like inspirations for that game are Cowboy Bebop and Akira.
Actually, when I first saw the ship, I was kind of confused in the beginning of the trailer because when I saw the ship first time, I was like, holy shit, they're making Cowboy Bebop. But then I was confused because the music was very synthy. I mean, it was completely synth. And I was like, if this was a Cowboy Bebop game, it would not have this music.
Right. It'd be very jazzy.
But once I saw the actual character in the character model in engine, I knew it was Naughty Dog because it looked like something that could have been in Last of Us. The actual anatomy. I'm talking about the way the facial model moved and everything. It looked like it could have been in Last of Us or Uncharted. I knew it was Naughty Dog at that point.
I was mostly just like, well, first we like knew from like leaks and or rumors that Naughty Dog was working on a like science fiction space game or something. Right. And also just thinking it was the one more thing of the show, and there's few developers that Geoff could be that giddy about doing a one more thing for, and Naughty Dog is one of them, right?
Yeah.
Maybe among the biggest, especially because it's been 4 years, since The Last of Us Part 2. So it was like, we've gotten The Last of Us Part 1 and Part 2 remastered since then, but like as far as new games go, it's like it's time. It was time for Naughty Dog to reveal whatever they were working on, and Jason, I know you had some opinions about this trailer. Would you like to air that?
I just thought it's a bad trailer. It tells you next to nothing about. Really, all you can gather from the trailer is that she really wants to go after dude on this planet, and apparently it's a bad planet that nobody ever comes back from. I thought the voice acting was flat. I thought the animations were flat. I thought there's nothing to make you like the character. She sounds annoying, like an annoying asshole. I thought the aesthetic, it could have been a DLC for Concord. It looks like shit.
Oh God.
I'm not saying the graphics are shit. I'm just saying the aesthetic.
I mean, it was like, kind of funny. Like
it looked like a ripoff Guardians of the Galaxy, which is exactly what Concord was.
Well, that's the thing. It was kind of funny getting this game revealed.
Only the ship design looked anything remotely like Cowboy Bebop.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, like I said, or was going to say, it is kind of funny that like this soon after Concord gets like unceremoniously and quickly shut down, that Naughty Dog, their premier single player studio, does reveal something that looks remarkably like Concord. Down to the whole Guardians of the Galaxy, like she pulls out like a whole like CD Rolodex and
Yes,
puts on some music while in space. It was like, man.
and it doesn't help that it doesn't. They didn't show us any real gameplay. Like they showed us very specifically that bit at the end with the sword because they knew that there
But
was not enough gameplay here to really tell anybody anything.
to
It was
what
just a
else?
bad trailer.
To what I'll say to that though, Jason, just to play devil's advocate, is like several of the games we've brought up, and because mostly because I know this is going to be a criticism leveled at us unless we bring this up. Several of the games that we brought up on our top 5 lists didn't really have much, if any, gameplay at all.
But and we said this before we started recording.
Yeah.
To contrast this last trailer with the first trailer, the Witcher 4 trailer, that told you everything you need to know. It told you what the tone, the setting was. It told you what the gameplay was going to be, fighting the monster. It told you about Ciri as a character, and she was actually a likable character.
Yeah,
and you could see her goals. It basically told a mini Witcher quest or short story, as they used to be when the books were first coming out, within a trailer, which is why it was so good and worked so well.
I think the core difference between like the ones that we just, again, playing devil's advocate or addressing these criticisms before they even get leveled at any of us, you know what The Witcher is.
All right. So I should have clarified. If you knew nothing about The Witcher, you would have gotten it from that trailer.
Oh, okay. Well,
yeah, no, I agree that Witcher 3 was like a way better trailer than this one by like miles, which is why it was in my number 1. But there was like another game that we chose, like the Ico game, Project Robot, that like showed next to nothing, and we were still excited. But that's just because we know like the aesthetic and the vibe.
There's bias there, yeah.
And for me, like seeing so little and knowing it's a Naughty Dog game and knowing what Naughty Dog has done is enough to make me excited. Like I'm thinking about like when Sekiro was announced, right? All they had to do was show like smoke and the From Software label, and I'm like, I want to play this. I don't even know what the fuck it is, but like I want to play it. And so for me, like it just comes down to that. And like I can see like the character, especially because there's been like a lot of criticism about Naughty Dog kind of, I'm not trying to feed into this narrative, but like woke agendas, right? And the character screams woke agenda. And so I think for a lot of people that kind of like puts a wall up. And I agree, there was nothing particularly about the character that I was like, oh yeah, no, this is a great character. Like I totally agree with that criticism, but I'm hoping that with Naughty Dog's writing and how good they are.
To hook me in. And it doesn't help that Concord just came. Very unfortunate.
Just the one thing I'll just add to what you just said, Delilah, is it puts up a wall for a certain demographic of gamer.
Right. But that's a big
really,
demographic.
All right. To be fair,
but I don't really want to give them any credit.
To be fair to my own biases, this is the first Naughty Dog IP that is completely Neil Druckmann. Even The Last of Us.
Yeah, that's true.
Bruce Straley's fingerprints are still all over it. I know that Neil Druckmann nowadays likes to take to the claim that he created The Last of Us by himself on his own lonesome. But very much like George Lucas, Neil Druckmann has gotten too big for his britches. In the case of George Lucas, that was both metaphorically and physically.
Damn, did you just make a fat joke about George Lucas? You monster.
Yes. Hey, look at pictures of him from back in the day. But anyway,
man.
The point being is that this is the first new IP that Naughty Dog is doing that is completely devoid of anything from its past under Neil Druckmann. And we'll see. I'm apprehensive. They have to earn my trust back. Yeah. And Naughty Dog, for me, does not hold the cash that it did a decade ago.
Yeah, and that's like the thing. Like this, I think if I didn't already know Delilah was gonna pick this one, this probably would have at the very least made my, or I guess I could call it this. This would be a runner-up for me, or an honorable mention. Let's call it an honorable mention for me. I knew this was gonna make Delilah's list because I just know Delilah well enough to know that this was gonna be there. And like I am looking forward to this, like because like, not as egregious as you, Jason. I definitely like older Naughty Dog games versus newer ones a lot more. But like, it's still a Naughty Dog game, and I still
Let's get the elephant out of the room. We're talking about The Last of Us Part 2.
Well, no, I mean,
I mean, because that's the only Naughty Dog game that I would say. Or actually, I didn't even play they did that Uncharted game.
Yeah, and the Lost Legacy, I think would be fun for us to play and talk about. And the Lost Legacy, it was just more Uncharted 4, basically. But point being is, it's like, it is more so Neil Druckmann, right? It is more so like he's kind of taken on this like Kojima-esque persona.
He sees himself as an auteur, getting all these famous actors in there. Yeah.
Well, he sees himself as a Kojima-like, and
he's not.
He's
talented, but he's not.
Well, he's very similar to somebody that he works with a lot, Troy Baker. Sometimes they just don't know when to put their foot in their mouth and not say something, and sometimes they say something, and it's extremely controversial for reasons. And that's kind of Neil Druckmann now. He's kind of let he's let a lot of his accolades, a lot of his fame get to his head, and that's kind of what gives anyone, or I guess you and I, maybe some pause about what this will be. But at the end of the day, it's still a game that I'm looking forward to seeing more of. It's still a game that I'm probably going to wind up playing. We'll probably wind up playing it for the show.
Fair enough. It could be fucking fantastic. All I'm saying here is I have apprehensions because of this is Neil Druckmann now, no Bruce Straley, no Amy Hennig influences, and B, I thought it was a bad trailer.
Yeah. I mean, the one additional thing I'll say is, because there's been a lot, I've been talking to a friend about this a lot, and I'm very much of the opinion of, well, let's just wait and see. Like, we don't know enough about this to really make any judgments. But the product placement in this trailer was a little much.
Oh, yeah.
Well, the thing is, I think they were also going for vibe with that. So I think it was trying to serve dual purposes.
The optimist in me is like, okay, is this going to be like a Ratchet and Clank, like original Ratchet and Clank, like PS2 era, the good era of Ratchet and Clank, where it's like some sort of poignant like satire of consumerism or something? Like, is all this product placement going to have a message at the end of the day? But I really know what the answer is. No, those Adidas shoes are going to be sold on Adidas's website for $200, and you won't be able to buy the Porsche ship because, you know, Porsche doesn't make ships. But sorry, Delilah, I feel bad. The last two things you brought up were like, we're talking a lot of shit about.
No, I don't care. That's okay. I mean, for me, at the end of the day, it's a trailer and it's Naughty Dog, and that's kind of all I need. I love The Last of Us 2, so I have no reason to be apprehensive.
At the end, I still like that game a lot. When I replayed it last year, I think I was definitely a little less high on it.
Yeah.
And I definitely I guess after just so many years of hearing the other side of like opinions on that game, I'm starting to like at least not necessarily agree with them entirely, but understand them more.
Yeah.
And it's kind of left me just feeling, I guess, a little more cold about what their output is. But it's also one game, and it's not like there's been a ton of output, so I can't really sit here and be like, yeah, this studio has lost all credibility with me, because that's simply not true.
Yeah, I think at the end of the day, I'm just happy they're moving away from the IP they've been known for. I think it's a good thing. I can see if they're going to evolve or not, or if they're just gonna stay like, if they don't do well here, then they are gonna have to ride off the train of The Last of Us and Uncharted for the rest of their careers.
Yeah, and nobody wants that at this point, because it is time to move on. It's time to try something new, and we'll see where it goes. So yeah, I mean, I'm definitely looking forward to this game. Nitpicky things about the trailer aside, I mean, I don't, Jason, I don't think it was that terrible a trailer, but I get where you're coming from in terms of
it just didn't tell me really anything, and there was no real gameplay to get a sense of.
I guess I'm just not as willing to level that criticism solely at Naughty Dog, even when it comes to like this show.
I'll admit that there's probably some bias there just because of my bias. Like I said, they have to earn my trust back.
I'm glad you brought that up, because that's definitely something I was going to call you out for, but you're self-aware. I know you know.
I think at the end of the day, like the only developers that can get away with these like vague trailers are people that have like really good acclaimed IP, and Naughty Dog does. So
and that's for better or worse.
And
that's
again,
for better or worse.
I specifically pointed out the Witcher trailer to juxtapose what I mean, to kind of give.
Oh, the Witcher trailer was god tier compared to that trailer. Yeah, you're right.
Right. Just to give an example of why I'm calling it a bad trailer. It's not just because I didn't like Last of Us 2 or I don't particularly care for Neil Druckmann. It's more mechanically, what is this trailer doing? The Last of Us, or I'm sorry, the the Witcher 4 trailer did everything that I think a trailer should be doing, where this trailer did almost none. It really just gave kind of a vibe like, oh, it's retro analog tech, which I love. You guys know Blade Runner. I love all the CRTV analog retro futurism. But the actual art style left a lot to be desired, to put it lightly. It just, I wouldn't, if I knew nothing else, I could have mistaken it for a Concord DLC.
Yeah.
Or spin-off.
Yeah.
I mean, maybe some of Concord's story content will get folded into this so that it doesn't totally go to waste. unless they work out a single player version of that.
If it is inspired by Cowboy Bebop and Akira, that actually makes me 10 times more excited than I thought I was for this game. Because I love both of those manga. Well, I like the Akira manga and the Cowboy Bebop anime. And the Akira movie, which is different from the manga, but they're both very, very good. But yeah, I just
Oh yeah, I adore Cowboy Bebop, which is why I got super excited when I saw the ship and was like, oh my god, is this a Cowboy Bebop video game?
Yeah, I just hope that the characters are likable. The girl that was in like the video looked a little bit like Sigourney Weaver, which I love Sigourney Weaver in Alien.
A lot of people were speculating that the actual voice actor / mocap was Sigourney Weaver, but that obviously isn't. It's the co-writer of The Last of Us 2. I forget her name, Haley Gross or something like that. Or I think it's Haley something.
Is Haley Gross playing the main character?
No, the eye patch lady.
Oh, okay. Oh, also, yeah. Did you guys notice that like Kumail Nanjiani was absolutely the bounty that she was going for?
Yeah. Lalo Salamanca.
That was the other one. Like I swore that was Tony Dalton, and I'm glad that is that confirmed. Is that Tony Dalton?
I believe so.
Oh my god, Jesus Christ!
But again, that's why
I am gonna have to play this game now, no matter what. I mean, I was going to, but
we both mentioned the Kojima thing because it was like, it felt like a cryptic Kojima trailer, but Kojima's kind of earned that, or I would argue he kind of lost some credit with Death Stranding. But we did a video on that, right?
Yeah. Of course we did. Absolutely.
The Game Awards could use with less Kojima talking. I'm just gonna say that he didn't need to have a whole 20-minute speech to present out an award.
Yeah, I'm kind of surprised that he didn't show anything. Like, Death Stranding 2 is supposedly next year, and we still I'm surprised we didn't get a trailer with a date.
Right.
But I'm not disappointed. I'm just surprised.
Yeah.
Okay. I think
sorry to be a Debbie Downer.
No, wait. I told Delilah when you stepped away for a moment, like, sorry that the last two things you brought up, we've kind of like criticized a little more or whatever. But that's not to say that I am excited for Intergalactic. I'm very much looking forward to it. But I definitely
I could be wrong. I could be wrong. Neil Druckmann could fucking hit it out of the park. It might have just been that the trailer didn't reel me in, the way it was designed to.
Yeah, I can't even say I have I can't even say the trailer was great. I just thought it looked good, like the animation as Naughty Dog always does, and it's just because it's Naughty Dog and it's a new IP, and there's really nothing else to it.
Yeah, I think there is reason, no matter where you're coming from, there is reason to be excited there. And there's a reason that it was picked as the one more thing. but yeah, I mean, we'll see. Like a lot of the games we've been talking about that we're most excited about, it's like there's so little to go off of that we are excited, but it's still a waiting game, and it's still gonna be like, well, things could change in 2 years. They could show what it actually looks like, and we could be massively disappointed.
Mm-hmm.
So, Jason, did you want to share your last one, or do you want me to go first?
We already. Oh no, we didn't do my last one.
Yeah.
Sorry, I thought we had covered all mine. I don't remember what the name. I didn't catch the name during the show. I believe it was like Project Generations or something. It was from that Yakuza team, I believe.
Okay, you and I have the same. You and I have the same last thing.
It just, and I don't even know why. It just looks so cool.
Project
It does look
Century.
cool.
It's called Project Century.
Project Century, not Generation. Sorry.
It's okay.
But yeah, it looks like. Was it supposed to like literally take place like at the turn of the 20th century, like in Japan, like so, like post Meiji, but early Imperial Japan? Like I couldn't really tell.
Yeah, I need to rewatch it, but like the reason, and granted, maybe the way for us to, or maybe the way for me to play more of these games is for us to just bang out a bunch of episodes on them. But I really do need to play through all the Yakuza games, or like a Dragon games as they're now called. Yeah, that's the thing, is like there's an
undertaking.
So many of them, and there's so much content in each one. It's like, oh god, that is a lot.
But the combat in this one, the way he was like picking up the crowbars and like the way they were fighting, it looked a little more in depth and technical than your standard Yakuza affair.
True.
It's just like cool to see them doing like, because they've really tackled a lot of different like facets, and particularly of Japan and Japanese culture with the games that they put out, right? Like the Yakuza games primarily focus on the nightlife sections of cities like Tokyo and Osaka and all, and those kind of districts, those kind of sections of those cities. And Judgment, I think, is like a different take on like that kind of setting, like a modern Japanese setting in like a big populated city, but like from a detective standpoint. And they've done like those Yakuza spin-offs, like Ishin, where it's feudal Japan, or not feudal Japan, but like
Meiji.
Yeah, and kind of an older take on older Japanese culture. Like they've kind of tackled a lot of different eras, and this definitely was kind of looks like it's going to be a fresh take, a different kind of game from them, and that's really exciting because they are, if not one of the most promising or most like one of the best studios out there right now, they're certainly were like the most efficient studio right now.
Prolific, yeah.
Like there's a new Yakuza game every year basically, and it's always like the wildest shit, and is a fully fledged game with a ton of different things to do, and you wonder how, and like the answer to that, the answer to the question is how are they pulling this off, is reuse of assets, which is what everybody should be doing to get games out quicker. But yeah, it's they're such a studio to follow, and they're such a studio that I really desperately need to catch up on their games because they keep putting out bangers.
Yeah.
And just talking about the setting, turn of the whole well, we're speculating like turn of the century. We don't really know. I actually do have an honorary mention. I didn't remember it was even there until now, but now that talking about this, my honorary mention would be Mafia: The Old Country.
Okay.
That not only like looks cool, like the subject matter just looks really cool. To go to actual Sicily before the migration to America, to see where a lot of those traditions come from. So that's an honorary mention. Sorry.
Nice.
Go ahead.
Yeah. Have you ever played a Mafia game? I've never played
Nope.
any of them.
I haven't played any of the 3 Mafia games.
Well, it seems like this would be a good one to jump in on because of the reasons you just laid out. It's very rooted, and like it takes place in a completely different country than the other ones did. Except the other ones were
it takes place in Italy in 1900.
Well, I think Mafia 1 and 2 were New York, weren't they?
Yes. No, yeah. That's what I'm saying is that the Mafia games have tradition. They've been American Mafia. This goes back to where those real, very real traditions that were part of Italian organized crime, where they came from the old country, which is, so just honor and mention. I completely forgot that was I was just reminded by this Project Generator or Project Century. Sorry, we talking about it and potentially being, turn of the century Japan.
Yeah, before all the gabagool. I never played a Mafia game, by the way, but
yeah, I haven't.
I love Mafia shit. I love Mafia shit. I love like New York Italian mafioso.
Yeah,
I heard that
we're
remake of 1 was really good.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, you guys are New Yorkers. Yeah, that's true.
So this is like a fundamental part of our.
Yeah, like me and my partner, like we just talk to each other in like Italian accents all the time, and just like shit on each other. Like, go over there, and make me a sandwich. Like it's just like so fun.
I know. I don't think you're Italian, are you? Is he Italian?
I have Italian in my blood, but no, he is half Italian.
Oh,
yes.
okay. I mean, it wouldn't matter either way. I feel like that's just like a probably a New Yorker thing.
Yeah, we love that shit.
Yeah. But yeah, I haven't played a Mafia game. That does look pretty cool. So definitely wanted to check out. I was also kind of the very first announcement. I've been thinking about getting into Ninja Gaiden, and for the first announcement to be a new Ninja Gaiden like side-scrolling like Metroidvania like thing, I thought that was really cool. So I guess throw that in as another honorable mention. But yeah, my last one was also Project Century. That's our list. Those are our top 5 things. Lots of overlap.
The number 1 game though for Dead Cell Media is the unnamed Team Ico game.
Yeah, that's the one that made all of our lists. So
yeah,
I guess that is definitely the Dead Cell Media or the they'll reap the spoils choice.
Yeah,
which literally told you probably less than even Naughty Dog.
Yeah, well that's the thing.
So I understand if people are listening and are like, "What the fuck?"
Well, that's why I'm bringing up like being devil's advocate here and being like, well, to be fair, Jason, we all picked a game where we know next to nothing, not even the title of the game. But it is a situation where you know what you're getting with Fumito Ueda, and that you're not getting like anything like what you've seen before. So it makes it really exciting.
Whereas, and back to it's not just Neil Druckmann. Like most of the people who actually made all the games they listed in the Intergalactic trailer, that are it's almost an entirely new studio at this point.
Yeah,
almost none of the people who are responsible for those games are there anymore. So they got to prove themselves.
I actually did forget one more honorable mention. Actually, this probably would have made my list if I had thought about it sooner. Dispatch.
What's that one?
That was the like Telltale like one with Aaron Paul and Laura Bailey. I don't know. The idea of that is really cool.
So here's what I was thinking while I was watching that. This would make for an awesome fucking TV show.
It could make for a really cool game. I mean, so a lot of Telltale games were really good back in their heyday. It could be promising. That's kind of why it's like an honorable mention, but or I'm putting it now as an honorable mention. Might have made my top 5.
Yeah, it could it could be great. I just I guess the better way to phrase it, I wish it had been a TV show.
Okay, yeah, I guess I could get that, but I'm definitely looking forward to seeing more of it. I thought the art style was really fun. The humor was pretty good, and I love Jesse Pinkman. So
I was just a little turned off by the whole banter before that announcement. I was like, "What is happening?"
Paul.
If it wasn't for the fact that I know, like my partner was like, "Are they a thing?" And I'm like, "No, she's married to Travis Willingham. They are absolutely not a thing."
I mean, I doubt that would stop them if they wanted to, but
well, maybe, but
right.
Anyway, well, I think that about wraps up our Game Awards 2024 discussion.
Yeah.
If there's anything you're excited about that we didn't talk about, if for some god awful reason you're excited about Squid Game Unleashed,
and it's okay to call me a hater in the comments. I accept that.
We'll call you a hater in the show.
I don't mean to be a hater. It's not even that I was hating it. There's stuff in there in the trailer and the aesthetic I did like.
I know it didn't jive with you. It's fine. Calm down. People are gonna say mean comments about you anyway. Don't worry about it.
True.
Yeah, so if there's anything you were excited about that we didn't call out, like let us know in the comments. Let us know why you're excited about it, or email us at dcellmedia@gmail.com to let us know what you're most excited about and just anything. You got a question? You got something you want to talk to us about or want us to talk about on the show? Let us know. We will do another one of those mailbag episodes if there are mails in the bag to discuss. So send us those emails. We do have a slight programming change to mention before we close out this episode. Last month we said that our next game that we'd cover is going to be Fantasian Neo Dimension. We're actually going to delay that on account of all of us playing another long JRPG. So we figured we might as well talk about that before we start another JRPG. Delilah, what are we talking about next?
We're talking about one of the Game of the Year nominees, Metaphor ReFantazio.
I would try to imitate the guy chanting in the I did not like that battle theme at first, and now
it grows on you.
This
grow on
song is so cool. I love it. It's the best. All right, we'll talk about that next month. We're talking about Metaphor ReFantazio in our next episode and our next spoiler cast. So stay tuned for that next month. If you liked this episode, please. Thank you. If you are listening or watching or listening. I mean, it's just a static image on YouTube. Sorry you can't see our faces. But if you listened on YouTube, thank you so much. Please like the episode. Please leave us a comment. Tell us what you like. Tell us what you didn't like. Subscribe to the channel. Share with your friends, your family, anybody that you think would enjoy this discussion of the Game Awards 2024. If you are listening on Apple Podcasts, thank you so much. Please rate and review the show. 5 stars per. Tell us what you like. Tell us what you didn't like. And we hope that you check in with us next month for Metaphor ReFantazio. Thanks for listening.
Goodbye, everybody.